Most crochet begins by telling you what to do. Chain this many, put your hook here, repeat this row. Freeform Crochet asks you a completely different question. What happens if you decide? No pattern telling you what comes next, no stitch count deciding when you're finished. Just yarn, a hook, and the freedom to follow any idea wherever it takes you. And I think that might be one of the most exciting things you can discover in crochet. Hey crochet friends, I'm Mo, your crochet companion. I've taken my entire Freeform Crochet Masterclass and brought it together into one complete video. So you can go from wondering, how does anybody even make this stuff, to creating your very first finished freeform project. And we're going to build that freedom one skill at a time. We'll start with the basics, then explore spirals, color changes, surrounds, overlays, texture, joining, filling gaps and shaping, until finally we take everything we've discovered and turn it into a finished pillow. If you're new to Freeform, follow along from the beginning because each section builds on the one before it. If you've been through the masterclass before and just need a refresher, I've added chapters in the description so you can jump directly to the section you need. But wherever you start, I hope you come away from this with something bigger than a collection of techniques. I want you to look at your yarn differently. Basically, I don't want you to come away thinking, what am I supposed to make? But rather, what could I make? So let's get started. If you've ever looked at Freeform Crochet and thought, wow, that is absolutely beautiful, but definitely not for me, you're not wrong for feeling that way. Freeform can look chaotic. It can look intimidating. And it can feel like something you're either born knowing or not allowed to touch. No touchy-touchy. But here's what I really want to talk about today. A lot of us don't fall in love with crochet because we wanted perfect stitches. We fell in love with it because it made us feel calm, capable, creative even. But somewhere along the way, that feeling can get buried under instructions, expectations, and doing things the right way. Freeform doesn't give you more rules. It gives you that feeling of creativity back. Hey crochet friends, I'm Mo, your crochet companion, and today we're talking about freeform crochet, not as a technique, but as an experience. We're not doing any patterns today. We're not doing any stitch charts, just clearly perspective. This is your introduction to freeform. So this isn't a tutorial. We're not making anything today, and I'm not going to tell you what stitches to use. This is the conversation that comes before the techniques, because without it, freeform doesn't really make sense anyway. Think of this as the permission part. For a long time, crochet meant patterns, clear instructions, someone else's vision, stitched exactly as written. And patterns absolutely do have value. They teach us skills. They build confidence. They're how most of us learn, right? But I discovered freeform and Irish lace probably 5-10 years ago. And it shifted inside of me when I started learning the process. Not because they asked me to design, not because it demanded creativity. It didn't ask anything of me. It just simply allowed me to use my imagination. And once that door opened up, everything just started flowing right into my brain. I started creating design after design after design in my head. Now, have I stitched them all yet? No, because I'm not fast enough. Plus, I'm trying to teach y'all how to do it as well. So, but yeah, that's kind of what happened with me. And it has become, Freeform and Irish lace has become my first love. And I hope through my tutorials that it will become yours as well. Here's something that surprised me when I started learning more about freeform. Freeform crochet didn't begin as a trend or an art movement. It grew out of necessity, experimentation, and making do. Historically, crochet wasn't always pattern-driven. People worked with the yarn that they had, the stitches they knew, and what the piece needed next. Irish lace especially came from combining motifs, textures, and shapes, adjusting as you went, creating beauty without rigid instructions. Freeform comes from that same place. It responds to the fabric, it adjusts as needed, and lets the piece evolve. So when freeform feels unfamiliar, it's not because it's new. It's because modern crochet trained us to expect instructions for everything. Freeform didn't tell me, now you must be a designer. It said, you're allowed to decide. You're allowed to create. You're allowed to feel something in your work. That's it. No pattern telling you you're behind. No designer you're trying to please. No moment where you feel like you messed it up. No, nothing, Yeah, just you and your thread and your creative space. So everything you do becomes part of the piece. And that freedom is what makes freeform feel scary, but also incredibly alive. Think of that one time when you messed up and you missed a stitch, right? And you're like, oh, now I got to go back and frog all those rows. Well, freeform is often those stitches that we messed up on, but on purpose. That's the fun part of it. If you've ever finished a project and thought, wow, this is nice, but it doesn't really feel like me. It's not that you're ungrateful. It just, you have a creative mind. Now, freeform isn't about being advanced. It's about letting your instincts have a voice again. This is why freeform becomes a game changer for people. Because for the first time, the project isn't judging you. We stop asking, what's next in the pattern? And start asking, what does this need? You stop chasing perfection. You start noticing balance, flow, texture, and weight. And suddenly, crochet feels personal again. That's the bomb diggity part of it. And then, what freeform isn't? Freeform is not random. It's not messy on purpose. And it's not anything goes. It's intentional decision making without a script. There is structure, and it's just internal instead of written. Once you understand that, freeform stops feeling chaotic and starts feeling conversational, like the fabric is talking back. This video is the foundation. In the next videos, we'll start walking through the actual structure, how to get started, how pieces connect, how freeform holds itself together without falling apart. But none of that works without this first step. Giving yourself permission. Allowing yourself to love the yarn, love the textures, love what you are creating with your own two hands. What I want to be really clear here, loving patterns and loving freeform, they're not opposites. You don't have to give anything up to explore this. Freeform isn't about replacing patterns. It's about expanding what's possible. And sometimes what's possible looks like it came from a pattern, but it really didn't. It was actually freeform. If you've been crocheting for years and quietly wondering, is this all there is? That question isn't failure. It's growth. You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to be an artist. You just need that permission to try without knowing the end. That's what Freeform gave to me. And that's what I want you to have too. Come join me in my journey on Freeform Crochet. And in the next... What is Freeform? Freeform crochet is multi-directional. You're not locked into rows. You're not locked into rounds. And you're definitely not locked into one direction. You build where the fabric tells you to build. In Freeform, you'll hear the word scrumble. And this is important. A scrumble is basically the Freeform version of a motif. So this right here, this is a scrumble. It's a small independent piece of crochet, any shape, any stitch combination, created without a pattern. Scrumbling is basically the act of creating scrumbles. So these scrumbles don't just float around forever, they get joined together. And when they get joined, they become fabric. So Freeform isn't just random chaos. It's modular. Small pieces come together to form something cohesive. And this is why Freeform feels so different. You're not just staring at a giant project wondering where to start. You're just making one small piece at a time. And for a lot of crocheters, that's the moment the pressure disappears. Now, if you watched my first video, I did go a little more into history. So I'm just going to kind of do a brief history on this. Freeform basically is crochet that has roots in Irish lace, where motifs were created separately and then joined together. Modern Freeform really gained its momentum in about the 1970s, 1980s, when makers began pushing past rigid structure and leaning into creativity. Now, today, Freeform is practiced all over the world. It's really cool how it's become so transformative across the globe. And because of creativity has never been good at staying inside straight lines. And that is so cool, right? Now, let's talk about the yarn. And more importantly, the color palette. This is something you want to decide before you actually start crocheting. I recommend choosing 4 to 5 colors that you know really work well together. So as you can see here, I've got my 4 colors. I'd show you the balls of yarn, but yeah, they're on their last leg. So they're in, we got some yarn barf going on anyway. So as you can see, I found 4 complementary colors. Most people, they really stick to the colors that they really, really, really like. So for me, I love greens. I love teals. I love blues. I love burgundies and purples. I love those color palettes together, but you can also pick other colors that are complementary, but I usually go to the ones that are my favorites. But in this case, I actually had picked this color palette kind of to be more rustic, more, I don't know, antique-ish looking. But I still have some of my favorites. My green, my sage green, and I like the dusty rose colors with a little bit of the gold, just to kind of, they do complement each other and they really work well together. Now, here's the rule of thumb. If you don't like the colors at the beginning, you're definitely not going to like them 10 hours in. Freeform magnifies color decisions. So start with palette you love. This isn't extra. It's kind to your future self. You're going to live with these colors for a while. Now, here's kind of a hack. You can use like a variegated yarn. Well, I wouldn't necessarily use variegated yarn in Freeform, but you can. But use it as your palette. start with, like, if you're not sure what colors go together, grab yourself a variegated yarn and use that as your palette. Like, I don't really have a good example, but let's say you did have a variegated yarn that has these colors in it. You would say, okay, well, I'm going to pick a solid color of the pink, a solid color of the green, a solid color of the gold, etc., etc., etc. So you could use that as your inspiration, I guess you could say. Basically, you're not letting the yarn randomly decide for you. You're using it intentionally to help inform your palette. It's support, not surprise. You're still in charge. Now, let's talk about tools, because Freeform is very hands-on. You'll change hook size often, and that's normal. So basically, you're not necessarily working with a gauge. I would pick your hook sizes according to your yarn size. So if you've got a worsted weight, I would go with the size 5mm or size G or H hook. And that's the beauty of Freeform, is the fact that you can use different sizes, different gauges. And that's the beauty of it. I have often used, like, what is that? It's used in knitting. It's like a lace weight yarn, fingering weight. That's what it's called. Anyway, so I've often used that in Freeform, or in some of the things that I've done where I've done Irish lace, as well as I'll use the fingering weight, and that does require a smaller hook size, but I'm known to actually just switching them up. And that's the beauty of it, is that you can do different things. Get that crazy yarn that you've always been curious about and you wanted to try it out, but you didn't know what to make with it. That's Freeform. So different size hooks. You'll want a different yarn needles. Well, mostly just one yarn needle, but you'll need a yarn needle. You'll need your scissors. I do recommend getting your safety pins, because you're going to need your safety pins to put your pieces together before you sew them together. And the reason why I do that is because I want them to stay together. Like, so let's say I've pieced them together. I know exactly where I want them. I'm going to put safety pins on them together so that I know exactly where they're supposed to be, and they'll stay there until I'm ready to put them together. And sometimes I switch them up. So maybe I've put them together and I'm like, oh, well, I don't really like that. So then I switch it around. You'll also want some stitch markers, and you'll want to have a steam iron nearby all the time. We use the steam iron to get your work to lay flat sometimes, because, you are going to be doing some interesting things with Freeform. So you want it to lay flat as much as possible, and having your steam iron ready to go at all times while you're doing your work is very important. Basically, steaming your work while you're building, it lets the fabric relax and shows you how it actually wants to behave. So, and sometimes after I've steamed something and it's not working, I will actually wind up taking it out because I don't like the way it's laying. Now, the other thing that you can use, and this is something that I use for when I'm doing my steam iron, is the Quilter's Cut and Press. So you can get this at any local store, Michael's. Well, I can't say Joann's anymore because they decided to quit on us. I'm going to stick to that one, but you can use the other side too. So like, say you just want to use it to rest your stuff on there, that's fine too. But I mostly just use the side with the puffy side. Anyway, so I know it sounds fancy, but it's basically just a board. One side has measuring grid, the other side has soft and squishy. They both have the measuring grid, but the one side is soft and squishy. That's it. It gives you a flat surface to gently press your work, check your shape, and stabilize areas without crushing your texture. You don't necessarily need one, but it is very helpful. And this is the one that I use. It lays in your lap nicely. Okay, so now we had already talked about the fact that Freeform Crochet it looks chaotic, but it is really not as chaotic as one would think. Even though you're doing your own thing and you're using your own creative vision, you still have guidelines that you want to follow so that it makes your design process or your crochet process in Freeform more manageable. So that's what I wanted to talk about next. They're not just written like a pattern. It is a creative process, so play is part of learning. We don't judge your work while it's still becoming. A lot of crocheters, they quit Freeform right here. Not because they can't do it, but because they decide too early that they're bad at it. Freeform asks you to stay curious a little longer, and this part matters. You want your fabric to be flat, not mostly flat, but flat. If it's bunching or rippling unintentionally, that's information, not failure. Stitch quality still matters, and using a variety of stitches creates stronger, more interesting fabric. So what I mean by that is, as you can see, pardon my dog, she likes to talk to the neighbors outside. So back to what I was saying. So what I mean by laying flat. So even though this side, you're like, it's not laying flat, but it is. So what I mean by that is that you want to choose and work your stitches in a way that the back side of it lays flat on the table itself. So when you start seeing things like it's bunching up, actually, I don't have one that's bunching up. I did too good. I should have saved one that was bunching up so you could see. But when you see that it's bunching up, that probably means that you've put too many stitches in there. Or let's say it's scrunching up like it's really tight. Then you know that you didn't put enough stitches. Like, I did a really horrible job at not doing a good job, if that even makes sense. So, but yeah, you want to make sure that it is laying flat. And that's one of the reasons for the steam iron, because if after you steam iron it and it still is not laying flat, you need to readdress that particular area. And I wouldn't say the last thing, but another important thing is that you really do need to learn a lot of variety of different stitches, because how boring would it be if all you did was circles? That's all you did. All you did was circles and maybe just single crochets or double crochets. That does make for a boring Freeform, right? As you can see here, I've got texture and interest. I quite often use, your puff stitches, your popcorn stitches. I use the fans a lot. I don't know why, but I just really like to do the fans. They're so pretty, right? And then quite often I use the front, in this case, the back loop quite a bit, because when you use the back loop, you can create another layer of texture on top of it. So as you can see from here, I did the back loop, and then I put a crab stitch over top of that stitch that was hanging out there, right? So basically, I took this right here and put a crab stitch in that loop, in that Aran loop. And you can leave it like this because it does give it its own texture. But if you want to give it some height, that's where you get your texture from. That's where you get your interest from. And then I use picots a lot, quite a bit too. I think, which one was it? Oh, this one I used Tunisian crochet. And I think I did a little bit of linked crochet right here too. So, but yeah, I did Tunisian crochet right here. So that's why you want to do a lot of variety. So if you look at my channel, I do have quite a bit of variety of different stitches that you can try and utilize. I think one of the things that I'm going to do in a future project is actually the peacock stitch. It is obnoxious to do, but it has such a visual presence, and I think it would be absolutely gorgeous in Freeform crochet. All right, now let's get hands-on. Freeform often starts with simple shapes, and circles are one of the best places to begin. Doesn't mean that you have to begin with a circle. You can do like a square. Doesn't matter. You can do an obnoxious shape like half a circle, half a straight. Because I did circles here, and I actually started this with a foundation row and then run around a circle around my foundation row. So that's how I started this one. So you are not subject to one way of starting, but this is where we're going to start for today, and then we're going to build on that flat circle. So to establish that circle, I often use the magic circle. And for those of you who have been with me for a long time, or at least for the last year of my journey, you know that I do the magic circle quite a bit. I try to make it as simple as possible because I know there's a lot of tutorials out there that even I was like, why did they make it look so complicated? I mean, you got to do this and do that and do the other. And it just was like, wait, what? So this is how I do mine to make it as simple as possible. I take my working yarn, my end, I put it over my palm toward me. I put it over my fingers, and I make sure that I wrap it over. Okay. I'm going to actually put it down toward the end of my fingers. So now I'm going to put my hook under and over, and I'm going to scoop this up just like this. I'm going to release my circle, real gentle like, and then I'm just going to put a slip stitch in there. So now you see I've got this line over my circle. We're going to work over both of these strands of yarn. For our working circle, I'm going to do a single crochet in that. Well, maybe. See, even I have problems with that magic circle every now and again. So we're going to do a single crochet over that. Once you do the single crochet, usually it's pretty secure, but I'm actually going to, normally I don't show you how to pull this up, but I made my circle too big. So I'm going to pull my strand. You see how easy that is? I pulled my strand up so that I could do my circle a little bit better. But I wouldn't recommend doing that until you've secured your first single crochet. Now I'm actually going to do a stacking stitch. So I'm going to go in this vertical bar right here. I'm going to insert my hook right there. I'm going to yarn over, pull that up, yarn over, pull through those two. So basically you're stacking two single crochets on top of each other to create a taller stitch. So you can count that as a single or a double crochet, or even a half double crochet. If you want to do a taller one, you're going to go into the next vertical bar and continue going. All right, so now there is no infinite, there is an infinite amount of double crochets that you're going to create. It does not matter. There is no set amount. You're just going to keep going until you feel happy with it, okay? But keep in mind that rule, that guideline that I explained to you. Your work does need to lay flat. So if it is crinkled and wrinkled, then you probably have too many double crochets in your circle. You got to make sure that your foundation that you start with is flat. So we're going to go a little ways longer. And then I'm going to start tightening up my circle as I go, because I kind of want to get a feel for how much more I can put in my circle before it's not going to lay flat anymore. So I'm just going to keep going here. And I'm going to start tightening it up just a little bit more. Gonna do maybe two more here. Now, I'm going to actually add a couple in here extra so you guys can see what it looks like when it's not laying flat and when you need to back off a couple. So you see how it's starting to pucker? is starting to pucker and ripple, and we don't want that. We want it to lay flat. So I would say, so it doesn't ripple or pucker, we're going to leave it right there. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit more, and then I'm going to single crochet, or excuse me, a slip stitch right at the top. Oop, I'm out of the frame. Right at the top there. You're going to do a nice little slip stitch. Now, because this is freeform, you can keep going with the same color, or if you're like me, I like to switch it up a lot. So I'm going to snip my pink and add a different color. Okay, I got my gold here, and so I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to add my color. So basically, once your circle has been established, this is where freeform technique really starts. Instead of increasing randomly, we use stitch height to control the fabric. For example, let's say, and I'll use this as examples because as you see, this second row that I did here is not uniform, right? It is not a perfect circle. And that's what makes it brilliant, because you don't need to do the same stitch all the time. But we want to work with those stitch heights. So what we want to do, oh, I lost my thread. Oh, I lost my thread on my yarn. Okay. So what I mean by playing with the stitch height. So in order to get it to stay, so it stays uniform, right? You kind of have to treat it kind of like a mountain. So let's say you're going to start with a single crochet and you want to go to a higher level. You can do like a half double crochet so you can build up your mountain. Then the next stitch, you're going to do a double crochet. Okay, so you kind of did your mountain there. Now, as you know, when you're working in a circle, sometimes you have to add or subtract a stitch. And you'll kind of get the feel of this as you go. But for me, I like to add just a couple stitches in each stitch around. So now that I've got my height, maybe I want to go back down to the valley. Then we're just going to do a half double crochet. Maybe I'll do 2 half double crochets in that same stitch. And then I'll go down to a single crochet. And then maybe I want to go back again. You want to go back up to that height. So then you're going to go half double crochet. And then back up to a double crochet. And as you can see, I actually am crocheting over my tails as I go. You want to do that every opportunity that you get so you have fewer ends to weave in, especially if you're like me, you change the color quite a bit. So, and you're going to go down. Maybe you want to go down again. So you're going to do 2 half double crochets and then maybe some single crochets again. And as you can see, I'm actually crocheting in the back loop of my project. And that's because I like having that space in the middle to create height or texture. All right, let me snip this little thing right there. So we don't need that little guy anymore. And maybe I just want it to be a single crochet all the way the rest of the way around. And as you can see, so if it's doing this, that means you don't have enough stitches, right? So I'm going to add some more stitches so that it lays flat. Oh, let's do a couple more single crochets here. That's the beauty of it, is that you can just stick them wherever you want to. Allows you to be creative however you want. And then we are back to the single crochet because remember we started with a single crochet, so we don't want to be at a different height when we get to the end of our round or row. At least this is the way I decided to start. You don't necessarily have to go the full way around the second time if you just want to do half of it. So as you can see, like here, quite often I'll do a half, a fourth, a third, you know, it's whatever floats your boat and rocks your world. But as you can see, the rise and fall in the stitch height that helps the circle expand without bunching. You're not forcing the fabric, you're guiding it. This is one of the most important freeform skills that you will learn. All right, so this is just the beginning of our freeform videos. This is just episode 1. I'm actually going to be doing about maybe 5, maybe 6 more videos. I'm breaking it down into little parts so that you guys can learn and, what do you want to call it? Explore and practice. That's the biggest thing, is practice. So this is your homework assignment. You're going to make circles, different hook sizes, different stitch heights, steam them as you go. Watch how the fabric responds. These are not projects. They are just skill builders. And this is where most people realize something important. Freeform isn't hard. It's just unfamiliar, and unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. So you're going to do the circle and you can do just this. And we actually are going to build on. So this is why it's a homework assignment, because the next time we're going to start building on our circles. Okay. Companion. Today we're expanding shapes, building surrounds, and creating spirals. Oh, I'm so excited. I love spirals. Without counting every stitch like it's a final exam. Let's start with expanding a shape. We've got our circle here, right? This was your assignment on the last video, was to create as many circles as you wanted. Or you could have done the straight ones, but the assignment was actually the circles, okay? So what we're going to do when we add a surround, we're simply building out from what we already have. So this is building a surround. And it doesn't matter which way you do it. It can be done any way that you want to. So I actually did this one in an uneven surround. Same way with this one. I did I guess it's called asymmetrical. And then this one I did with a symmetrical shape. So let me show you how you get the asymmetrical shape. We touched on that just a little bit in the last video, but I'm going to kind of expand a little bit more. So remember, the goal is to make sure that your work is laying flat on this side, which means that on the side, outside of having texture, it should be able to lay flat on the surface. Okay, so we want to keep that in mind when we are actually creating our surround, shape. Okay, so when I do surround shapes, I often like to work in the back loops because I use the front loops, like I did, not on that one. On this one, I usually use the front loops to create an extra texture or an extra layer. So we're going to do that today. So in the circle itself, I want to show you the back of this. You see how there's kind of a second ridge back here behind the back loop. We want to grab this back loop of the braid and then just grab this little extra loop right here. And that's only just to secure your back loop. That way it's not stretching out. Because look what happens when you just do the back loop. It kind of stretches out, right? So by doing it in the back loop and that little extra loop back behind there, your work doesn't stretch out as much. So let me grab my yarn. I've been doing a lot of work today, so I had to find my yarn end. Okay, so how I add my yarn, it's really not that hard. It's really not that complicated, but I go to the right a couple of stitches before the end here. So I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to insert my hook into the back loop and that extra loop back here. grab my yarn, pull it up, and do a slip stitch right there. Okay, now the goal is to have this flat. So when you are doing an asymmetrical design, you want to do it by doing what I would call waves or mountains. So any variation that you want to start with maybe a single crochet or a double crochet. And then you go up or down according to whichever one that you started. So what that means that, so if you start with a single crochet, maybe you want to do a couple single crochets in a row, and then you'll do a half double crochet to start building up, and then your double crochet. And depending on how high you want, maybe you want to even go up to a treble crochet. That's completely up to you. And then if you want to go back down, you'll do the opposite. You're going to do half double crochet and then a single. That way, when you're doing that, it's not bulking up. So in some cases you probably could, but the goal of the first part of this is that we want it to lay flat. Okay, we don't want to put any texture just yet. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to start with a single crochet in that same spot, and sometimes you have to do multiples. And what I mean by that, so let's say if it starts to ruffle, you put too many stitches in there. But let's say it starts to cup and bend. That means you haven't put enough stitches in that particular spot for it to lay flat. We're not following an actual rule book. We're just responding to the way the fabric is laying. So let's go ahead and do that. Especially in circles, you often need to do more stitches when it comes to circles. So maybe you need to do 2 half double crochets right there. And then maybe the next one we're going to do a double crochet. Okay. And make sure that you are crocheting over your ends. That way you have fewer ends to weave in at the end. Okay, so let's say I want to keep it at that height for a little while, so I'm going to keep going with a couple double crochets. Oh, looks like I'm crocheting my hair in there. All right, and then I want to decrease, so maybe I want to go back to my little valley and hang out there for a while. So then I'm going to put 2 half double crochets in there. And then I want to go back down to a single crochet. So as you can see, it's asymmetrical, but we're doing it in a way that it's going to lay flat. Now, if it's too many or not enough, let's do it. Let's say we're going to do it like it's not enough. Okay. So let's see what it does when you do not enough. See how now it's cupping? You see that? Nice little cup, right? Okay, so now let's do the opposite. Let's say we've put too many in. Let's see what it does there. So I'm going to do a half double crochet there. We're going to put a couple of double crochets right in here. Let's put another, let's say another 3 in here. Now, in some cases, maybe you want it to ruffle because you want to make ruffles, intentional ruffles. I do that too. So, but at this point, we don't want to because we're making our foundation of our scrumble, and we want our foundation to be flat. See how now it's starting to ripple and ruffle? And that's what you're talking about. So let's go ahead and take that out because I don't want that many. I usually find that in a circle this size, usually only takes about 2 per stitch. Okay, so let's go back down. I kind of want to make an unusual size, I guess. That's kind of where I'm looking at. And as you can see, I'm still crocheting over my tails. Maybe that's all I want to do. Maybe I just want to finish it out with double crochets. Or single crochets, not double crochets. Oh, well. And then you just do a slip stitch right in that first one. And you've finished your first surround. Okay, so I want to reiterate that general rule of thumb. It's just a loose guideline. And it is flexible. It's usually about 2 stitches per stitch when you're expanding in the round, especially a circle this size. Oh, you know what? I just realized I wasn't doing it in back loop the whole time. Well, do as I say, don't do as I do, I guess, in this case. Anyway, so the 2 stitches per each stitch. I mean, it depends on your yarn weight, your tension, and your stitch height. Freeform is not about an exact number. It's about balance. So, yeah, I was supposed to do I got so much into teaching, I forgot what I was doing. So let's go back and do that in the back stitch or the back loop only. Yep. Okay. So now that we're almost done here, you'll start to see that ridge starting to form. And you can leave it just like it is and give it that nice little texture. Or you can create an extra level of texture. It works either way. That's probably one of the fastest and simplest way to create character in a piece, really, is to do like a back loop or front loop. Okay, so I'm going to snip that little green piece off here. All right, so, and that's what I was talking about. So this one, I just left it just the way it is. Oh, here, let me find one of the ones that I was done with. See this one, I actually switched it up. I did half with the back loop and the front loop only. And then over here on this side, I did it so that it was in both stitches. So there's a variation. It's just whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, now let's talk about color. You don't change color just because you're bored. Although sometimes I do. Like I'm bored with that color, so then I will switch. But that's generally not the rule of thumb. So we change color because we need contrast. So, and this is the way I look at it. When I'm done with a stitch and I pretty much am done with that color. So what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example here. So as you can see here, I did a lot of different things. So I did my little circle, and then I did my surround in a different color. And then I did this particular stitch. I think I did some fans. I think I'm just doing an extra expand, but then I started doing a few fans here. Then I did my popcorns in a different stitch, and then I did this V stitch in a different color. So I always change my colors every stitch that I use. And remember, if you didn't like your color palette in the beginning, you won't magically love it halfway through. I would encourage you using anywhere between 4 to 5 different colors that are a good palette together, and using a variegated yarn as your what you use for your inspiration. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. So I would use it as your inspiration for those, because a lot of times they put colors that are really nice together, and then you can use that to create your own palette. So say you take a variegated that has a purple teal and some random color, you can put those, like buy solids of those particular colors, and you know that they're going to go well together. Okay, so now we're to the fun part. This is one of my favorite things to do and to put in almost every single thing I do. I'm not going to show you the double-ended spiral yet, but I am going to show you a single color spiral and a double color spiral. And I'm sure that you guys will be able to figure out some different variations from there. I just have so much fun with spirals because they give it so much visual interest. Here's the double colored spiral. They have so much interest, and I find them so much fun to play with. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab a color. Hopefully I can grab one. I'll just use which one do we want to use? I want to use that one that's going to be more visible. Let's use the pink. Let's use the pink. That's a light color, but a little bit of more of a color. Okay, so we all know that I like my magic rings. So I'm going to go have my end toward me, wrap it around my finger, up and over. So it's going to cross over underneath your first piece of yarn, scoop up that one, pull it up, take your fingers out. I like to squeeze mine just a little bit down, and then I put my simple slip stitch right there, or chain. Now I am actually going to use the stacking stitch to create my first double crochet, because that's what I want my circle to be, is a double crochet. So we're going to do our stacking stitch. So it's a single crochet and then a second single crochet in that vertical bar. Just like that. And once again, when you're doing your circle, it doesn't matter how many stitches you have in it. You can have even stitches, you can have odd stitches. If you are one of those people that have OCD and you need to have it a certain stitch, well then I guess that could be problematic for you, but you could always just make sure that it is. I don't know. I don't know why that just came to my mind. Wouldn't it be hard to do a freeform crochet if you have OCD and you have to have things symmetrical? Oh, that could be rough. Oh, that could be really rough. All right, so I've gotten it to where I kind of think that I might be enough, and I'm going to cinch it up just a little bit just to kind of get my gauge, and then I'm going to keep going, putting a few more in there, because remember, we want this to lay flat. We want to have enough stitches in our circle, but not too many. Okay, perfect. That looks like a good flat design for me. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into that first stitch, and we're going to go in the back loop only. And the reason why we do this is because you notice that you really can't see the spiral. When you're doing one color, you really can't see the spiral that much unless you have that outline. So I'm going to go into the back loops only. I'm going to do that slip stitch first, and then I'm going to start with a single crochet right in that. Okay. And then I'm going to go into the next one. We're going to do 2 half double crochets, because remember, we're going to build up to the height. We're not just going to go straight into a double crochet. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets. Then I'm going to do 2 double crochets. And remember, I'm grabbing that back loop and then that little knobby thing, for lack of a better word for it, that little knobby thing in the back there to kind of secure that a little bit better. So, and then we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep going around and around in circles until we get to the size that we want. And it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be small, but it does have to be enough to give it some kind of visual interest. Now, if you want to, you can just leave it at the half double, or even just do single crochets in your little round. It is completely up to you, but doing it like this makes it more visually interesting. This is Freeform, so you're free to form whatever way you want. See how I did that? I just made a pun. Oh, I've missed doing my freeform, so I've been really trying hard to build up a library for everyone because I knew I was going to be going in the direction of freeform and Irish lace because they are my first love, absolutely my first love. And I knew I was going to be building up to that, but you have to know some of the basics. I know it kind of stinks because sometimes we just want to go straight into the fun stuff, but you do have to have some of your basic skills first before you can go into freeform. I didn't learn. I mean, I had been crocheting for probably, I'd say maybe 15 years before I started learning how to do freeform and Irish lace, but you have to kind of build up to it. So what did I do there? I didn't do my doubles. I didn't do my 2. And it's okay if you make a mistake in freeform. That's the beauty of it. I love it. So, but anyway, as I was saying, yeah, I've been spending the last year or so building up the library for you guys so that you had other stitches to learn, and so people that come to my channel, they can learn from the beginner all the way to advanced. That's kind of where I was at. And I also wanted to do things that I don't even know how to explain it, but I've just learned that I love creating stories and putting crochet with the story, because I rarely ever hear any stories that are crochet related. So I started making my own, and I hope that you guys like them as much as I do, because I have fun. And yes, it is me that's narrating. I'm actually doing it myself as a voiceover, so that is my voice. It's not a robot. It's not AI. It's just me, myself, and I narrating my own stories. Okay, so I've gotten as big as I think that I want. So whoops, just the same way as we started is the same way we're going to end. So we have to do from the double crochet, we have to go back down. So the next one we're going to do is the half double crochet. So we're going to put 2 of those in there, and then we're going to go down to a single crochet. We'll just do the next 2 as a single crochet, and then we'll do a slip stitch. There we go. I don't know, it looks a little bit funnier, but that's okay. Funny is okay. So as you can see, so now we have a single color spiral. And it kind of looks, I don't know, every time I do a spiral, I think of those snail shells. When I was growing up, a little story time here for you, a little extra story time. So when I was growing up, we had a water in our basement because our basement was built below the water line. And every time it rained, we would have water in our basement until, they created a sump pump system and everything down there in the basement. It was really cool. But anyway, I digress. So every summer there would be water pumped out to our, out underneath beside our driveway, and then it would shoot out into the street. And there was always this like big puddle of water right by our driveway. And I remember always finding snails right there in that slime. And I would just sit there for hours playing with the stupid snails. I don't know. I was kind of a strange child. But anyway, I spent a lot of time outdoors, had a creative mind. Oh, I even did the whole mud pies. Anyway, so now I'm going to snip off my thread. Oh, whoops. You know what? I always do that. I like securing it just a little bit more. So I'm going to take that out just for a second and redo that last stitch. So we're going to do that slip stitch. And then I like to take that once I snip it and pull it through just to secure it a little bit more. There we go. I don't think I did that on my last one either. Nope, I didn't. It's just a way to kind of secure it a little bit more so that it doesn't pop out of there. So gonna pull that up and then take that and pull it right through and pull it tight. That secures it in place. Now, just to mention one thing, if the spiral starts to wave, woo, hello, just go ahead and pause. Don't argue. Adjust the stitch height, adjust the spacing, add or remove gently. You're not failing, you're adjusting. Okay, are you ready for the next one? We are going to do the two color spiral. Now that y'all know my life history, we're going to do our magic circle with one of our colors that we're going to choose. Do your slip stitch and a single crochet in there. And we're going to start it just like, well, not just like it. So we're going to do one single crochet, then we do one half double crochet, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets in our magic circle. Now we're going to grab our second color. I'm going to pull this loop up just a little bit, and I'm going to grab my second color. I'm going to move that out of the way just a little bit. Let me grab my second color. Oh, I got some yarn barf going on back here. We're going to attach our second color in the same magic circle. Grab that, pull it up, create a chain of 1, and we're going to do a single crochet, 1 half double crochet, and then grab our color here and pull it a little bit tighter. Then we're going to do 2 more double crochets. Okay, so now we're going to pull that tight, and remember we're going to work over our yarn ends too. So I'm going to cut this one just a little bit shorter. Okay, so from here, because we've gotten ourselves to the height that we want for both of them, so we want them both to be at a double crochet. Now here's the fun part. You see how it kind of looks like a bow, right? And then you know you did it right. Now we're going to keep going. We're going to grab this first double or single crochet that we did, and we're going to pop our double crochet right in there. We're going to put 2 in that first single crochet, and we're going to keep going with that double crochet, and we're going to do 2 double crochets. You might have to do more, just depends on what kind of yarn you've got. You might have to put like 3 double crochets in there or 1. It just depends on what kind of yarn you have. You're going to have to adjust. Remember, when it folds in on itself, you don't have enough, and if it ruffles, then you have too many. So we're going to keep going with the one color. All right, so now that we've gotten to the next to last one, we're going to pull that out just a little ways, just so we can find it a little bit easier. We're going to sneak over here to our second color. And just like with the first color or the second color that we did over here, we're going to go right into this single crochet. I kind of did that one a little bit tight, didn't I? We're going to do 2 of them in that one. And the way it's kind of laying for me right now, I'm going to pop a 3rd double crochet in there. And then we should be able to do 2 double crochets from there, but we'll see. Yep, it looks like that's what we do. Yep. So then we just keep going with 2 double crochets in each one for a while. No, I'm going to have to pop an extra one in there because it's starting to buckle a little bit. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets. Hopefully I can just stick with 2 double crochets from here. My gold must be just a little bit finer, which is crazy because it's the same exact thread. But you're just, as I'm doing with you right now, I am adjusting on the fly as my yarn is talking to me about what it likes and what it doesn't like. So we're going to keep on going. I'm not going to make this one as big as the ones that I did, the other ones that I did, the 2 color spirals. Okay, so now we're to the next to last one. I'm going to pull that loop out, grab my other color. We're going to continue crocheting over the tails. And just like with the other stuff, you can do it in the back loops to create, so like this one right here, I did this in the back loops because I am going to create some interest. So I might come over with the gold over top of this to create some kind of definition and extra building that texture up, which is so much fun. So much fun. I'm telling you, this is my favorite thing. I'm so excited. Even though I've enjoyed making every single video I have made for you guys, this is my first love. So, well, technically filet crochet is my first love, but this became my next favorite love along with Irish lace. And I'm not very traditional. The Irish lace that I do is definitely not considered traditional Irish lace because I take Freeform and Irish lace and put them together. There we go. All right, so now I've gotten it to the point where I'm going to go ahead and stop. And we do just like we did with the one, the 1 color spiral, we're just going to taper down. So the next one we're going to do is 2 half double crochets and then a single crochet and then a slip stitch. And then we go back to the other side. We want to go to, I don't know, I don't feel like it's quite done yet. So let's go down here just a little further. Just a little further. So I don't necessarily mind asymmetrical, but sometimes some things I like to have a little bit closer to symmetrical. So okay, so now we're going to do our taper down, 2 half doubles, a single, and then a slip stitch. And then we cut it off. Because remember what I said, each color, each stitch, we do a different color. That's my guideline for you. Okay, so just like in the last video, you have a homework assignment for the next time I put out a video. So here's what I want you to practice before the next video. So you're going to create 1 expanded circle, or however many you want. It doesn't matter. So you're going to create it with you're going to have your circle and you're going to expand your surround. And then you're going to make 1 single color spiral, and then you're going to make 1 2 color spiral, and then just keep practicing keeping your work flat. Don't aim for perfect, aim for responsive. And it doesn't, you can do more than 1. It doesn't have to just be 1. If you're like me, I've got a whole pile of them now because I just find freeform crochet so liberating and so exciting. So sometimes I just can't stop myself. I just can't stop myself. Okay, so what form series, we're moving beyond flat foundations and into dimension, because freeform isn't just about shape, it's about personality and texture. Before we start building texture, I wanted to quickly show you something, and I briefly spoke about this previously, and it is when you steam your pieces, especially circles, they lay nicer, they relax, and the fabric behaves better. So I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about. So let's see, this one right here, it's kind of it's misbehaving just a little bit. So I'm going to actually steam it real quick. And then I'm going to flatten it out with my hand right there, like that. And look at how much it just behaved just from that quick steam, right? And this is one of the reasons why I recommend steaming after you've completed, well, as you go, really. So this one, I actually steamed it when I did the little circle, but then I added this to it, the texture, and so I wanted to do it again because it kind of was close to where I wanted it, but I needed to see if it was going to behave or not. So that's why I wanted to steam it this particular time, but I recommend doing it every single time you are working with your work. And as you can see, Freeform is expressive, right? But if it curls like a potato chip, nobody wins, right? So steam blocking isn't about perfection. It's about giving your fabric a fighting chance. All right, so now let's go mess some things up on purpose. Today we're talking about texture. We're going to be adding some pizzazz to our work. And this is what makes Freeform so unique and so special. So some of the things that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the fan stitch, the popcorn stitch, the berry stitch, the box stitch, and then overlay crochet. So those are things that we're going to be doing today because we want to add the texture, but then we want to add some fun depth to your work as well. Okay, to start with, we're going to talk about the fan stitch. So there's a couple different ways that you can do it, right? So this one, I actually made this Freeform Scrumble almost uniform. So I made it even, uniform, so it makes it a pretty flower, right? But see this right here? This is your fan, right? And then over here, I did not have a uniform Scrumble, so I just kind of added some fans here, and same thing with here. I only added the fans to half of my work on an unusual thing, right? The spiral. Now, to make a fan, you want to make sure that you leave yourself at least 5 stitches per fan. Well, I guess it depends. There are a lot of different fans that you could actually use. So it depends on your shape. So I have an odd shape here that we're going to work with today to show you some of the to demonstrate some of these stitches, right? So we've got an odd shape, and I'm going to grab my gold color here. No, I want my pink. Let's go with pink. I want pink this time. So, some fans, you can make them really big. Some fans, you can make them really small. And then sometimes, like, which one was it? This one, what I did is I actually made a fan in the corner because this right here was kind of sticking up. And so I used it as a fill-in here. So I made it a kind of like a half a fan. If you can see that, that's a half a fan. So we're going to start with our odd shape, and I'm going to go into both loops of my work. Let me go a little bit closer. I'm just going to do a nice little slip stitch. And remember, we're crocheting over our little ends. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to start with doing a single crochet on that. And then we want to give it at least 5 stitches, maybe fewer, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the middle stitch, that's where you're going to start your fan. All you're going to do is take your hook, insert it into that middle stitch, and you're going to do a double crochet. Actually, 5 double crochets in that, and sometimes you might have to do more depending on how well it's going to lay for you. Sometimes I do 6 and 7 double crochets in the same stitch. Just depends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, see, I did 6 right there. So And that's kind of where I was at, is that I wanted to make sure that it's laying flat. So what I did was I did 6 stitch instead of 6 instead of 5. Now I'm going to skip those 2 and I'm going to do a single crochet in the next stitch. So you have your first fan. Now you can do a smaller fan. So right here, let's say, because I'm going into a corner, I don't like where it's going to land. It's going to land right here, which is kind of an awkward spot. So I'm just going to skip 1 and go into the next one. And depending on how it feels when I get in there, will depend on how many double crochets I actually put in that stitch. Because I don't want it, remember the goal is to make sure that it lays flat. And around a corner, sometimes you have to add more stitches to get it to lay flat. Okay, that looks good to me. So that is good. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, I did 7. So now I'm going to kind of see where it's going to land. And it's going to be right about here. So now I know that it's going to lay nice and flat right there. And let's see, what else do I want to do with this one? Yeah, we'll just leave it there for right now. I think that's good. Well, no, let's do one more. I can't make up my mind. Let's do one more, but it's still around a corner. So I'm not going to go into, I'm not going to do the 5. I'm just going to go into the next one, go 1 over and go into the next one and do a double crochet right there. And we're just going to kind of go with the flow to see what kind of fan that this particular scrumble wants. All right, let's keep trying. What else do we have here? And yeah, that looks about right. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 again. And then we're going to do a single crochet in the next one. I'm going to snip my work right there. Tie that off. And we're going to set that one aside until I decide what else I'm going to do with it. In our next one, I am going to show you, I believe it's the popcorn stitch. Yes, it is the popcorn stitch. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Do I want it in that? Yeah, let's just go ahead and put it in here. Let's just go ahead and put it in there. So the popcorn stitch is actually somewhat similar to the fan stitch, but there's one little variation, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my next color, which is gold. I always like to kind of rotate my colors. So as you see, I got my middle is a green, then white, then pink, and then I add my next color. Okay, so we're going to do a single crochet in that same stitch. And we're going to kind of give it a couple stitches. Maybe we're going to go right here and we're going to do 5 or more. Now we're just going to do 5. So we're going to do 5 double crochets in that one stitch. Remember, we're continuing to work over. Oh, I don't think I put it in the actual stitch. What did I just do? I don't know what I just did. I guess it was in the stitch. Okay. And remember, we're continuously going crocheting. Anytime you can, you're going to crochet over your tails, your ends. Okay, so that was 4 and 5. And you're going to drop. You're going to take your hook out of that spot. Basically, we call it dropping the loop. And then we're going to insert our hook into the first loop. In the first stitch, we're going to grab our loop and pull it through to the front. secure it, and then I always like to do either a couple of stitches at the top or whichever. And then you can either do another popcorn. It's up to you. I like to put at least a double crochet in between. Then I'm going to do another popcorn in the next stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to drop our stitch. And remember, this is the lone wolf, the lone double crochet. So we're going to put our hook into the next double crochet. Pull up that loop right there. And then do a single chain. I'm actually going to do 2. Looks like I've got enough room for 2 more popcorn. So we're going to go into the next stitch. Actually, 1 more popcorn. So double crochet in the next stitch, and then a popcorn in the next stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Drop our loop, insert our hook into the first loop or the first double crochet, not counting this one because that's just the lone double crochet. Grab our loop, pull it through, and then I do a chain of 2. And you can finish this off however you want to, but I'm just going to put a double crochet into that first single crochet that I saw there. And now we've got an oddball ending to that particular spot, but don't fret because we actually will be doing something more to this a little bit later. I'm gonna tie that off and secure it. So that's actually an opportunity for another fan or some other taller stitch that we can pop right in there. Kind of make it a little bit more even. I don't try to make it completely even, as you can see. I don't have even scrumbles at all. But eventually you'll have to fill in the gaps if you want your scrumbles to become flat or like a fabric. Wow, I don't know why I can't remember words today. Now, one of the things that you can keep in mind with popcorns is you can actually work in the front and you can work in the back. So what you would do is you would just do it from the back and then go the opposite way. And so instead of inserting your hook from the front to back, you go from the back to the front. Now, I don't know that it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Just a little bit of a difference. But I usually don't do the way in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and snip these because I think we've crocheted over our tails long enough. And this one, I don't know why I still have that one. I suppose I just cut off one that I should have kept, huh? That happens sometimes. And then we start the whole scrumble all over again. Okay, so now let's talk about the berry stitch. The berry stitch is actually kind of a cousin to the popcorn stitch, but it's much smaller. And the berry stitch, I actually prefer to work it in the back of my work. So I'm actually going to start, let's start about here. So I'm going to add my green. And we're going to start it like we do everything else with a single crochet. Now in the next stitch, we're basically just alternating triple crochets with a slip stitch. So we're going to do a triple crochet in the next stitch. And a slip stitch in that same stitch. We're going to keep doing that. In the next stitch, we're going to do a triple crochet and a slip stitch. triple crochet. And I don't know what made me just all of a sudden think about this, but it always confuses me when I watch somebody who is from the UK because their terminology is slightly different. They call a triple crochet a double, their double crochet, they call it a triple crochet, which is so confusing to me anyway. Maybe somebody else, it doesn't, but I guess if you're from the UK. Yeah, I've got a couple of acquaintances from the UK, and they always tease me. All right. So I'm going to turn this over so you can see how this works, how it looks. It's nice and bumpy, right? But it's not overemphasized, or I don't even know what the best way. It's not like a big loud compared to the popcorn. It's not as loud, but it just gives it a nice little texture. I'm going to go ahead and go to the point where I want to stop, and I'll get right back to you. Okay, so I went ahead and went all the way to the end where the other end of the spiral color, and that was the end of it. That's where I wanted to go. Gives it a beautiful texture. Now, I was kind of hesitant about whether I wanted to redo this or not because I wasn't sure if it was going to lay flat, but I did my test. I laid it flat, and it actually conformed because when I was working with it, it kind of did this little ripple thing, and so I was like a little nervous that maybe it was too much, and so I was thinking about going back and doing it on a berry stitch and every other stitch, but when I laid it down, it actually sat flat. So that tells me that it's okay, and I'm not going to do any redoing it. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Okay, so the next one we're going to work on is the box stitch. So it kind of looks like, kind of like a surf ridge. I guess that's what I would call it anyway. But I actually absolutely love this one because it almost looks like a bullion, but it isn't. And it just gives it a nice little texture without being obnoxious. It just gives it such visual appeal. So I got one on that one, and I got one on this one. And it is a little bit more complicated. I wouldn't say that this particular stitch is beginner friendly, but I'm going to walk you through it for those of you that are a little bit more adventurous and want to try something new. This is your stitch right here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my little piece again. And we kind of want to start, I kind of should have left, in fact, I think I will. I'm going to undo a couple of these. Oh, no, I'm not, because I can't do it. Anyway, I should have left myself a couple of stitches right here to start with, but that's okay. We're going to work with it anyway. I like to start so that the box stitch kind of lays like this on the surface. So like, which one was it? Oh yeah, it was this one. I'm like, which one was it? It's the one in your hand, silly. Okay, so yeah, like this one. Remember I kind of said that you can put a fan right there. Oh, it was the one that I was doing the fan on. Which one was I doing the fan on? I think I put, oh yeah, this one. I did the fan, and then I said that you could probably put a fan right here. You can also put a box stitch there as well. So that's what I'm going to do here, but it's not going to be the way I would have done it right here. So right here, I actually could have used this little thing right here to kind of continue on with a box stitch, and I might still do that. It just depends on how I feel about it once I do a box stitch over here. But I actually like to have a nice full round, but not necessarily, not the entire thing as with the box stitch, but I do like to do at least a half of a scrumble, a fourth to a half of a scrumble in the box stitch. Okay, so this one, you kind of start it like a puff stitch. That's the best way to describe it. So let's go ahead and get going. So I'm going to do my little slip stitch. I'm going to do my single crochet in that, and then I'm going to grab maybe one in the next stitch over. Okay, so I'm going to start my puff stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, insert our hook. Make sure that you're nice and loose with this, okay? Yarn over, insert your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up, okay? Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up. Make sure that it's nice and loose. So you can do that a couple times. I wouldn't do it too many times because you got to get your hook through all of those in a different kind of way. So what makes it the box stitch is we're not going to finish it like we would a puff stitch, okay? So in the next stitch, we're going to insert our hook. We're going to grab our yarn, pull it up, and then do a single chain right there, right? And we're going to pull it tight, okay? Now, we're going to grab our yarn pieces with our left hand between our thumb and our middle finger, or you can do it with your right hand if you're left-handed. And we're going to take that and we're going to pull that yarn piece all the way through, kind of wiggling your hook all the way through. Now, you can do like a slip stitch at the top, but this is what I like to do. I like to grab the next stitch, insert my hook, and we're going to do a chain of 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So you do in the third stitch, or the third chain, you're also going to pull through that top loop. So now you have your first box stitch. Now, to do the second box stitch, that's bothering me. It's going to have to get steamed. It's curling. Can you see that? It's curling. Which means I have too many. But I think I'm just going to steam it so I don't have to redo it. So now we're going to do this in this chain that we created, and we're going to do that same thing in that chain. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. Make sure it's nice and loose. We don't want it tight. However many you want, maybe 5 or 6. I wouldn't go too much more than that because you still have to get your hook through all of those. Now in the next stitch, we're going to insert our hook, pull up our loop, and then we're going to do one chain, and we're going to tighten that down. Now we're going to grab that, pull our hook through, wiggling it all the way through. Now in the next stitch, we're going to insert our hook, and we're going to do a chain of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now it's starting to resemble some kind of something rather, right? All right, let's do a couple more, and then we'll move on to our overlay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Insert our hook into the next stitch, pull up that loop, do one chain, kind of tighten it down, grab your loops, pull that through, kind of wiggle that hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, and chain of 3. 1, 2, and 3. It looks difficult at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's going to be your favorite stitch. Let's do one more, and then we'll go on to the overlay. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next stitch, pull up that, and then do one chain, pull it tight, grab those chains or those loops, wiggle your hook through. Yeah, it looks like I kind of got snagged, but that's okay. All right, in the next chain, or in the next stitch, we're going to insert our hook, pull up that loop, and do 1, 2, and 3. There you go. All right, so now we're going to move on to the overlay. Okay, so now let's talk about overlay. So basically what the overlay is that you're just creating a little bit more depth to your work, okay? So like right here, I did an extended single crochet, to create an overlay between each of these fans. And I usually pick a different color because it just makes that pop a little bit more. So like this one, it makes it look like a flower, right? And this one, the same thing. We've got a single crochet, an extended single crochet in between each of the fans to create that little pop. Now, this one's a little bit different because what I did is I actually created a front post overlay. So you see I did this in between the popcorns instead of in between the fans, right? And instead of just doing a single crochet, extended single crochet, I actually did a front post in the very first circle that I created. I think I started out doing triples, and then by the time I got over here, I realized that I needed a, not a triple, but a double triple, or double, I can never remember what it's called, double treble. Anyway, so as you wrapped around 4 times instead of, no, 3 times instead of the 2 times. So that's what I wound up doing, was the double treble. Much longer stitch because it created the dimension. Kind of almost looks like an octopus a little bit. I always think of some of the strangest things at the strangest moments. I probably should keep those thoughts to myself, right? Anyway, so yeah, it was a treble overlay instead of the fan. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of demonstrate a little bit of both on that one that we just did with the fans. This one. Okay. So we've already done a green, we've done a white, we've done pink, we've done gold. So normally I would probably wind up making this bigger, and I probably will demonstrate this to you and then do something different because I like to have my scrumbles a little bit bigger, but it's okay if it's a little bit smaller, because sometimes when you start putting your fabric together, you like having the little ones because the little ones will fit into little spaces that maybe you can't fit a bigger one in. They're kind of like the fill-in scrumbles. So I might just leave it just like this. But anyway, so let's grab, well, we're just going to go ahead and grab the green. What did I do with my hook? There it is. I'm hiding stuff from myself. Oh, that one's still attached. Okay, so here we're just going to kind of let's start at kind of not quite in the peak or the valley of the fan. I'm going to start right over here, and I'm going to start with a single crochet. And just to work our way to that valley right there. And then we're going to go to the stitch below. So not in the pink, because we're going to do that, but then we're going to do a extended single crochet. Well, I guess it's not really extended, but it's anyway. So we're going to insert our hook, pull that loop up, and then finish it out with a single crochet, basically. Now we're going to keep going with our single crochet all the way around to the next one. And sometimes you might have to do, a couple extras in each of those spots kind of toward the top, because you're going to go around that corner or around that edge, that round edge. And it does take a couple extra stitches when you're going around an edge like that. All right, so now we're at our valley. So I'm going to insert our hook into this stitch right there. Pull that up. And do finish the single crochet. Not really complicated, right? That's what makes it beautiful. And that's why we also call it an overlay, because it gives it interest without being overly complicated. All right, almost to the next one. What I'm going to do, I'm going to demonstrate one more of those, and then once I get to the popcorns, I'm going to actually do the front post overlay. Okay, There we go. Nice extended single crochet. Now this is where it's kind of up to you whether you want to stitch in that that space right there. You can stitch in the stitch, maybe put a couple stitches back there. When you do like an edge like this, it just makes those popcorns a little bit more noticeable. All right, so now I'm going to go to that double crochet. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to work around this post right here in this green. And I'm going to have to make it big enough to get it to come from here all the way up to here. So I'm actually going to wrap around 4 times. Then I'm going to go to this one right here. I'm going to insert my hook into the back and pull it up to the front. Just like that. And then we're just going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we make the full stitch. Now that I did that, you see how I made it too big. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take that out and we're going to just do around 3 times. Sometimes you have to do that because it just doesn't look right. So you just have to make sure that you're reading your fabric. Reading your yarn. Okay, that's much, much better. So now you see that I made an overlay that actually is the right length. And we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch to kind of secure it in place. And we're going to keep on going. Keep it going until we get to the next spot. I like to secure a single crochet at the top of that double crochet. Now we're going to wrap around 3 times. Going to grab this one at the in the green row. We're going to insert our hook from front to back, looping around the stitch. Well, this one's going to be a little bit tougher to do. So our popcorn is trying to get in the way. Haha, I conquered. I win. I'm so silly in doing stuff like that. So now you see how that kind of separates your popcorns, makes it pop a little bit more, have a little bit of contrast there. And then we're going to finish off that going to the edge. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and since it's just that that double crochet right there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and work a couple of stitches in that. And then we'll get to about here, put a single crochet in there, and we'll do a single crochet extended, just like that. And we'll finish our row. Now you don't necessarily have to do it just like that, or you can always like put a different color, you know, but I thought it was quite easy just to kind of, I could demonstrate both of those in the same row without stopping. And then we're going to go ahead and slip stitch right there. And I've got a couple tails that I've crocheted over that I can snip off. Just like that. There we go. And then it's perfect the way it is, but I'm going to probably give it a shot of steam here in a little bit. And as you can see, it makes it an unusual shape. This will probably be what I would call a stocking stuffer. A scrumble stuffer. That's what I'll call it, a scrumble stuffer. Now I've got to copyright that term, a scrumble stuffer. Anyway, oh gosh, I'm just too silly today. Okay, so that's kind of that's what the overlay is. There's a lot of other different overlays you can do, but those are the 2 that I'm going to cover today. Okay, so I got a couple tips here. So basically, here's the key. You don't need all of these at once. Just pick one, add it to a circle, see what it does. then add another. Freeform isn't about memorizing the techniques. It's about experimenting with the texture intentionally. So as you can see, we experimented quite a bit today, and I did change my mind a couple of times, and that's what you kind of have to do. And that's how, as you get more experience, you'll kind of understand that, and you'll probably stopping and starting in the middle of a moment. That's what we call a freeform moment, and changing your mind, doing something different. So like this one, I'm not going to change it, but I am for sure going to steam it so that it behaves better. Same way with this one, because it's not going to behave. I think this one will be okay. It just, while I'm working with it, it drives me crazy because it makes me think that it's not going to lay flat. I'll probably finish this off with the box stitch to make it more, a little bit more uniform, give it a little more dimension. And then I probably will be doing something with it a little bit later on top with the spirals to make it really interesting. All right, now we've got a homework assignment. This is what I want you to do. I want you to create however many circles. Just pick one if you want to, or if you've already got quite a few going, you're just going to spend some time and add at least 3 different textures to it, whether it's fan, popcorn, berry, overlay, box stitch, whatever it is that you want to do. Experiment with the different stitches and kind of get a feel for them and see what you need to do, see what you want to do. If sometimes I will add every single one of those to one scrumble, which is fun, but maybe a little over the top. But get you a few of them, get connected with them, and just really work on them. Yeah, don't try to make it symmetrical. Don't try to make it perfect. Just add personality to it. So why does this actually matter? So in episode 1, we created the structure. We learned what the guidelines were. And in episode, we were learning not to argue with our fabric, right? And creating circles and surrounds. And this episode, it's about letting it speak and giving it personality. Basically, texture is where your style starts showing up. Not the pattern style, your style. Okay, so first up, we're going to talk about the crab stitch. And the crab stitch, it looks like, this is what it is right here. This is what it looks like. It kind of looks like a rope, really. It's just a single crochet that we work in reverse. So it's also called a reverse single crochet. So in Freeform Crochet, we are often using the crab stitch. We're using it in the front loop. So let's take a look at that. And I'm going to show you this right here. So it's the front loop only. And what I'm going to show you today is how to do that in a way that you're doing it before you create this ridge or after. So you can do it before you've created your surround, or you can do it after your surround. So like, for example, here, I created my surround, then I went back and did my reverse single, my crab stitch, right? But you can also create the crab stitch before you create the surround as well. So I'm going to show you both ways to do that. It's just one of those things, like maybe you wanted to do the crab stitch there, and but you weren't quite sure what you were going to do for the surround just yet. And that's okay. That's okay. That's why you have both ways to learn, so that you can do either or. Now, as you can see, I did a spiral here, right? We talked about that, how I like this, that looks like a snail, right? I love doing a crab stitch on this snail looking type thing, right? And I often do my snails. I'm going to just call them what it is. I often do my snails in the back loop only, so that I can use that front loop as a place to put a crab stitch. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. So when I use that for my snails, I go ahead and start with the very first one that I created. So way over here at the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook there. And I'm going to add my color. Do a slip stitch so it stays on there. Okay. Now, this is how I have learned how to do the crab stitch. So we're going to swing our hook around just like this. We're going to insert our hook in there like this and kind of pull our hook to the front, grab our yarn, pull it up. So now you have, well, now I have more than what I wanted on there, but now you have 2 loops on your hook, and then you're going to do a yarn over and pull through 2. So let's do that again. We're going to swing our hook around kind of to the side and up. I'm going to grab it, pull it down, grab my yarn, pull it up, and complete my reverse single crochet. So let's keep doing that again. I'm going to insert my hook, kind of swing it around, down, grab my yarn, pull up the loop, and do my single crochet. Let me get a little bit closer here so that you can see that a little bit better. So we're going to insert, we're going to put our hook this toward us, the hook part toward us, insert our hook into that spot, bring the hook down, grab our yarn, pull it up, pull through. Let's keep doing that because I know sometimes it can be kind of tricky until you've seen it a couple times. So I'm going to put my hook toward me, kind of in a wonky position, insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull it up, and grab my yarn again and pull through 2. Now I'm going to go a little bit faster so you can see what it looks like in real time. I actually don't make such an aggressive position, but I just was doing that so it's over exaggerated so you can kind of see how we do that. I'm getting a little blurry here. Sometimes you have to over exaggerate things to understand it, right? And I'm just going to keep going that way until I get all the ones that I want done. Now, do I always like make myself into a magician? No, I just kind of subtly do it, put my hook in there, grab the yarn, and pull it through. And sometimes I use the piece that I'm working on as a way to, I kind of move it a little bit too, so it's not. Now, keep in mind when you're doing an overlay like this with the crab stitch, sometimes you have to put less. So if my stitches are really close together, then I might put 1 crab stitch in, and like I might skip a step and put this crab stitch in the next stitch. Or let's say that they're really far apart, then I'm going to put maybe a couple of crab stitch in the same spot. So we're going to keep going like that until we get to the point where we want to go, right? Okay, so we're almost to the point. So I'm going to show you how to do, so this is the way you do it if you have already created your surround, right? And once we get to this point, then I'm going to show you what you do when you haven't created your surround yet. So it's before the surround. I want to say before your surround sound. All right, so now we've gotten to that spot, and you see how much more interesting that looks now compared to what it was. Let's look at another one that I did. And so you see what we could do for this one as well. I could do an overlay across that using that crab stitch. And you could do 2, like, because this is a 2 color, you could do 2 colors right there. So 1 color here and 1 color there. It helps you tie your colors in together. It's so beautiful sometimes. Okay. All right. Back to where we were. Now, we don't have an overlay, right? So we're just going to go into the front loop only. So our next one is right here. So we're going to ignore this bottom loop right here. And we're going to go into our front loop. Just like that. We're going to keep going around like that. So as you can see, now I have that back loop that I can still play with. So let's say I haven't made up my mind whether I want to do a surround on this yet. That it gives it visual interest without necessarily detracting from adding anything more to your work, right? So you can keep adding more to it. All right, so I'm going to go all the way around and I'll be right back. Okay, so now you can see how beautiful that can be. And you see how you can use the crab stitch to create extra interest, or you can actually use it for an edging as well. So it works either way. But you see, I did this in a way that it allows it to be either or. And then once you actually decide on whatever it is that you want to do, you're going to work in those back loops. And the way I do it, you see how this little knobby right here is? I insert into both of those stitches because it gives it more stability when you do it that way. But I absolutely love the way that looks now. Absolutely love it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tie my green off here. And tie it off. Okay, all right. Well, I didn't give myself very much yarn to weave that in, so I might have to get creative with that. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you a specialty stitch that I have no idea what the name is. No clue. I learned it from somebody long time ago, but I never knew what the actual name was. And I have searched high and low, and I have not even found the name on the internet or anything. So if you guys know what the name of this is, I would love it if you told me. If you know, if you're like me, you just don't know. But this, to me, is a cross between a cluster, Tunisian, and what is the other one? Yeah, kind of the box stitch. So to me, that's what it kind of makes me think of. So this is the box stitch, and this is the specialty stitch that I'm going to teach you. So this is kind of the reason why it makes me think of the box stitch is because of the way we set it up to create the stitch, and that's the exact same way we do with the box stitch. Now the difference is that we don't do like the yarn over and leaving all the loops on the hook. We actually do it slightly different, but let's just go ahead and get to it. So remember the stitch that we used? Yee! Actually, you know what? Maybe I won't do it on this one because I need like a white or a gold, and I have those tied up on a couple other things. So let me find a different one. Yeah, let's go with this one because we can use that green again. Okay, so we kind of want to start it just like we would a box stitch, where you kind of are going at a little bit of an angle. Like you're starting it up here, but then you're adding it down here, right? So I'm going to insert my hook right here. I'm going to add my green color. Now, the other difference between the box stitch and what we're going to do with this one is that you're using a double crochet and a chain of 1 at the top. So you'll understand what I mean, but once you get into it. But anyway, so we're going to yarn over. We're going to insert our hook right about, let's go with this one right here. So we want to create a place to put this stitch, right? So that's why we're going to create that double crochet. Now, this is kind of where a little bit of Tunisian and your cluster come in. So you're not going to yarn over. You're just going to insert your hook into that space that you just created, right? You're going to yarn over, pull up that loop, and you're going to yarn over, pull through that loop, and you're going to pull that loop up higher. So now you have that little loop down here at the bottom and a long loop at the top. So you're going to keep doing that same thing. You're going to yarn over, pull that loop up, yarn over, pull through that loop, and pull that strand all the way up. Gonna keep doing that until you get to the size that you want, right? That's why I said this kind of reminds me of a little bit of a box stitch, a little bit of Tunisian, and a little bit of a cluster. A little bit of all of the above, right? Okay, so I have 6 strands on my hook, so I'm going to go ahead and yarn over and pull through all 6 strands. And then at the top, I'm going to do a single chain at the top. Then we're going to go into our next stitch. So I'm going to skip a stitch and I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through that, and then pull it up taller. Insert our hook, yarn over, pull it up, yarn over, pull through that, and then pull it up taller. So we're going to keep going just like that. So there's 3, and I'm going to do 6. And then we're going to yarn over, pull through all the loops, yarn over, and, oh, excuse me, and do a chain of 1 at the top. Okay, so now I'm going to do it in a little bit faster time, and then I'll slow it down one more time so you guys can see it. So this is what it looks like when you're doing it a little bit faster. You stop long enough to count. All right, so one more time, I'm going to slow it down again. We're going to skip 1, go into the next stitch, do a double crochet. And the reason why I'm not really going into how to do each stitch, like the single crochet and double crochet, is because if you guys are trying out Freeform, you probably have been crocheting for a little bit of time anyway. Okay, so I'm going to do it slowly. We're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through that loop. Pull it up so it's longer. Yarn over, pull it up, yarn over, pull through that loop, pull it up so it's longer. And just keep doing that until you get as many strands on your hook as you want. And then I stop and kind of do a quick head count and then yarn over, pull through all the loops and do the chain at the top. So that's kind of what it looks like. I just love the variety, and I just love that. So and then full disclosure, I actually was contemplating on teaching you guys the bullion stitch, I can't even say it, the bullion stitch, which is, I have figured out that it is my arch nemesis. It is my arch nemesis. So that got vetoed. So this stitch you can use as a decorative edging, or you can just use it as part of your building your scrumbles. It's completely up to you, but you can see that it just makes such a beautiful, it would make a very beautiful edging. Companion. Today we're getting ready to scrumble, and pardon me, but I always want to say this like like the wrestling, get ready to scrumble. I don't know why. I just felt like doing that because it's, I don't know, every time I think of scrumbling, that's what pops in my head. Let's get ready to scrumble. Anyway, so we're making and joining those beautiful little pieces into something that actually looks intentional. Okay, so what is a scrumble, you might ask? Think of scrumbles like a little fragment of fabric made in different directions, different stitches, and different textures. So this is a scrumble. But we're also going to be scrumbling. And the difference between scrumble and scrumbling is that we are going to be putting our pieces together. And when we put them together, they create your fabric. This isn't about rows. This is about building. Okay, so if you haven't already gotten a quilter's press, make sure you get one, because we use this quite a bit in this process, because this lays in your lap nicely. You can do it while you're sitting and watching TV, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. It makes it so much easier to do your scrumbling. Plus, it's a flat surface. Yeah, and then you can also steam your work while you go. Now, we're going to talk about templates next, okay? So if you want to, an exact shape, like a pillow, bag, or wearable, you're going to want a template, okay? So while this isn't the template, you probably could, if you're using just going to make it like a little pillow or something, and that's actually what I did. So I created a template, but then I cut out a piece of fabric that I can use to pin my scrumbles onto the template itself. And that comes to our next point. We're going to lay our scrumbles on our template, and we're going to play around with them, okay? Basically, we're going to lay your scrumbles on the template. You're going to stay within the perimeter, right? And then you're going to adjust as you go. Your template is your guardrail, not your boss. Okay, so let's take a look at this real quick. So we're going to make sure that we line up inside of our template, right? And you don't want to go outside of your template if you want it to be perfectly square, well, or at least somewhat close. You don't have to. You can actually, I have some pieces that I go over the edge of the template. But it's not something that I needed a perfectly square or perfectly structured item. I just needed the template as kind of like a guideline or a guardrail. Now we get to the fun part. We're going to talk about the placement and balance. You do not want all your big pieces in one corner looking like they're forming a click, right? You want to mix your sizes, mix your shapes. I don't have that many small ones. I need to make some more small ones, but mix your shapes up. Maybe throw in a square where there's supposed to be a round one, or, whatnot. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but, just mix and match. Another thing to consider is your color placement. So, and when I look at colors, I look at the fact that I don't want, I don't want to put another green. So I don't want my green next to my green. Kind of defeats the purpose of it being interesting, right? So I would switch that around, and I would put my pink next to my green, maybe put my white next to my pink, and this one has got green on green, so I would probably find something else, another shape, another size, maybe put that one like that. So I've got a nice small one, so it kind of mixes things up. But the other thing we're considering is the fact that we don't want big on big, right? We don't want all the big ones clustered in one corner. We kind of want to mix it up. Maybe we'll put a little one over there, and maybe we'll put a little one down here. It's got different shapes, sizes, and you also want to consider the texture itself. So while I did do this intentionally on another piece, I wouldn't necessarily put like my box stitches next to another box stitch. Kind of looks kind of bland and boring. Put a different texture next to it. Maybe not something that's not quite so exciting, so the box stitch pops out a little bit more. We're basically at this point, we're thinking about balance, not perfection. And the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the joining method itself, okay? So there's actually two different kinds of joining methods that you can use. One of them is that I've done it both ways. I actually prefer to just plop all of my, you make a whole bunch of scrumbles and pop them on my piece. But most of my pieces, I don't usually use a template, but this one I do. So this one I would probably be more intentional and work as I go. So you can either put all your scrumbles on and sew them together, or you can work on them as you go. So maybe your inspiration is this one right here, right? And then you're like, okay, maybe I'll add this one to it, right? And then you maybe you crochet them together, or maybe you sew them together. It doesn't matter whichever way you do it. Some people, that's the way they do. Maybe their inspiration is this one only, and they continue working around that scrumble until they get to the size that they want. Or like I do, a lot of times I do a mix and match. So maybe I'll put all my scrumbles together, decide the kind of which way I want to do it. And then I will decide on the method as I go. So I might sew a few pieces together and then fill in the spaces. Think of it this way. There is absolutely no crochet police here. Do what works for you and your creativity. So a couple tips to give you right here. So you want to make sure that you're working in the back loop. So what I mean by that is, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So let's say you decide you want to, let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to put a couple pieces together here. I kind of liked that idea right here with these together, right? Yeah, that's good. So we're going to work with our template, make sure nothing's outside of our template. I'm going to kind of put my little pieces together here. Yeah, so it's not going over this edge, it's not going beyond this edge, and we're not going beyond that edge, and we're not going beyond the edge of either one of these. Okay, and before, I'm actually going to pin these down. That's where the safety pins come from. But while I'm doing that, you always want to make sure that you're considering on your bigger pieces, you want to make sure that, like on a piece like this, it's pretty small. So I'm not too worried about it. But on the bigger pieces, you always want to make sure that you're working from the center and moving out. And then your corners and your edges are going to be the last thing that you put onto your piece of work, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and pin these down because I've got them where I want them. Actually, no, I'm not going to take that back. I'm not going to do that just yet because we need to sew some of our pieces together first, okay? At least that's the way I'm going to roll with it today. So let's look at this. Which ones do I want to put together first? Let's go ahead and put these two big pieces together first, okay? So I'm going to join them together at this spot right here, okay? Now, fun thing about this is most of the time you're going to have, you know, like a tail or something because you always want to leave at least a few tails for yourself. But in this particular case, well, actually, you know what? I might like that better. Oh, no, because I don't want my green. Oh, I wish I had that in a different color on the edge. I might actually wind up doing that and putting a different color on the edge. I don't know. No. I do like the way this sits together better, though, because look at this. Look at how it conforms to each other. So you wouldn't have the same colors, at least as far as these are concerned, and they lay nicely together. So I wouldn't have to do a whole lot of stitching in between the motifs themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I might have to find a different piece to put right here because I don't want my colors. Oh, maybe that one. Oh, no, wrong color. Oh, again, we're in the wrong color. That one might work. Let's look at this one. Yeah, I think I like that. That's not too bad because then my colors go well with each other. Sorry, we got a little bit of a artistic, reconfiguring here. Okay, so now's the point where we're going to put our motifs together. Well, our scrumbles, sorry. Sometimes I talk in motifs because a lot of people, they understand motifs better. So we're going to actually grab this pink right here. And the way we do that is we're going to flip these over on the back side. Okay. If you can all do it by doing it from the back side, that is so much better for you as far as that's concerned. But when you're sewing them together, you want to make sure that you're working from the back side and then using the back loops only. And just as a reminder, make sure you have all your tools available and ready to go, because I keep having to pause the video because I was not prepared today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Probably because I'm doing this last minute like I normally plan ahead of time. And here I am Sunday, and I wanted to upload this for tomorrow. And yeah, we had life get in the way this week. So, okay, so back to it. We're going to make sure that we're going to put our stitches in the back loops only, okay? So what I mean by that is, see these like right here? We want to make sure we grab those back loops and then back loops only over here on this side. And we're just going to do a whip stitch. That's what this is called, just a whip stitch. Going to put it nice and tight in the back loops only. That way, when you turn it over on the other side, you don't see where you've stitched them together. And I'm actually going to have to weave back through so I can get the other side, so that those pieces, because you see how it could connect right here, and I want to make sure that they're connecting right there. So we're going to go back through here. Plus that'll help secure that a little bit better too as well. So, all right, so let's go back through here. And it's okay to leave gaps. There's a couple different ways that you can handle gaps, but I'm not going to go over them today. But on our next video, we will cover what to do with those gaps. All right, I'm going to keep going in the back loops and securing it there. This one's a little bit trickier because of the fact that I used the lacy, kind of a lacy stitch, and then I used the box stitch too. So a little bit trickier, but we'll make it work. Okay, so then we're just going to weave our ends back in to secure it. And one of the tricks that I like to use too, so like say I have two colors together, like this one right here, I'm actually going to just tie my two strands together, just like that, and then weave them the rest of the way in. That way it's secure. Nobody wants their work falling apart, right? Mid-sentence. That's no fun. That's no fun at all. All right, and then I like to go back one more time, the opposite direction, so that I know 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 that it's secure. And I always like to weave my ends in as I go, or as much as I possibly can, especially when I'm crocheting over them. That's actually the best option, is to crochet over them as you go, because that's basically you weaving your ends in. And then we're going to go back the other way. I know this is the exciting part of crochet, right? Weaving in our ends. It's our favorite part, right? Especially when we have 200 ends to weave in at once. Isn't that your favorite thing? I mean, surely it's your favorite thing, right? I'm just being ornery because I can. All right, so now we're going to flip that over and we're going to take a look at that. Looks like I need to weave that one in too as well. So as you can see, you can't see where I weaved in anything, right? Or, I sewed them together, and you still have the texture popping out here. This one I'm probably going to have to kind of do something a little bit different with it, because I didn't really want that to show off, but that's okay. We'll make it work. And as you go, remember that you always want to make sure that you're checking your template. So a couple things that I wanted to mention here is that obviously your fabric's going to tell you what you want to do, right? And then you're going to be going as you go. Now here at this point, so what you could do is what we would call working on the coastline. So what you're talking about when you're working on the coastline is anything that is around those scrumbles, right? So let's say I add another one here. So we're adding to the coastline. But let's say I decide that I want to crochet around the coastline. That you can do as well. So you're going to crochet around the coastline. It's kind of like when you're doing your surround too. So you know how we did that surround around the circle in a previous episode? That's kind of like the same ideology. The only difference is that you're going all the way around all of the scrumbles or around a certain scrumble. Now, just like with scrumbles, you can go all the way around the scrumble, or you can just add to, say, half of it. So like you want to create your coastline, but you want to do one stitch for half of this. And then maybe on the other side, you do another a different type of stitch, or maybe over here, you're going to do a different stitch, that kind of thing. Hey, I just wanted to check. You guys still with me? You good? Because this is where we start to overthink a little bit. And don't. This part doesn't have to be exact. In freeform, mistakes aren't mistakes. They're just design choices you didn't plan yet, right? All right, so I'm going to take another opportunity to show you a couple different things. So sometimes we want to look for what we call V opportunities. And when I talk about V opportunities, do you see anything here that looks like a V, right? Looks like a V, right? So we have a V right here. Before we even put that one, we have a V opportunity here. So maybe I put a V in here before I add this one on, which I'm thinking about doing because I'm reading my fabric and how it is telling me what it wants to do next, right? After I put this one, a V here, and I put this one on, then I might put a V there or right here. Maybe I'm going to put a V here before I move on and add this one, which I actually think that is a good opportunity to do. And I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. Okay, so I'm going to pick a color that is neither gold nor pink. And obviously the next piece that I want to put in here has a white edge. So what leaves that with is a green color. So I'm going to do a green color. Okay, so when you're working in a V stitch, you're actually going to use the fan stitch, which is very common in freeform, and it's a great way to transition into another motif, especially when you see how this will transition perfectly into that, and then you can be able to sew that scrumble right into that V stitch. So it looks like I'm missing my hook again. This is why I say in my outro, may your hooks never hide, because mine always hide on me. I don't know about you guys, but I probably have 5 crochet hooks of the same size because my hooks are always hiding on me, right? Okay, so I'm going to take those and move that aside so that we can actually work directly into this, right? All right, so to do the fan stitch, obviously we want to create a base stitch, and then we need to have a base where we're working into it with our actual stitch, and then a spot where we're going to finish the stitch, right? So I'm going to start over here, right about here, because I think I'm going to do, and that was the other thing, is look at how that would probably fit perfectly right there. It's always something to consider when you're doing your V stitches and when you're doing your next, adding your next motif or your next scrumble, or if you're doing just your coastline. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, and we're going to just include a nice little slip stitch. You can continue going on from here just like that, but I like to secure my thread in place or my yarn in place and just do a full single crochet. You don't necessarily have to. That's just a personal preference. And again, we're going to make sure that we're going to do every opportunity to crochet over our thread or our yarn pieces, our ends, okay? So now that we've got this started, we're going to work into this stitch right here. Let me kind of expose it a little bit. There's like a little niche right there where it looks like it's a nice secure spot for me to work in. So I'm going to create a double crochet right there. I always like to grab the secure stitches because there are some that you could put your crochet hook in there, but it's such a flimsy spot that you wind up redoing it. So we're going to put a couple of double crochets in there so that we can create that fan-like look and texture right there. And we're going to check it every so often here against our scrumble that we want to put in there and the one that we've already had. So I could probably get away with just leaving it like that, but I kind of want to just do one more double crochet in here. And just to kind of see if that suits it better. Okay, so this would be where I want it to be and how I want it to lay. These little guys are in the way. So that looks good to me right there. So I want to do a slip stitch. And remember, you kind of want to grab a stitch that's back behind because you're joining two motifs. So I want to grab some stitches back behind here to do my final slip stitch in the back. And then secure it and snip my thread. Just like that. And there you go. Now you have a nice little spot where you've got your V-stitch, and now it's a good opportunity to add that next motif or the next scrumble. Okay, so yeah, that looks like a good spot right there. So then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to sew. So you see I crocheted this piece in, and the next one I'm actually going to sew in. So you might go back and forth. You might stick with one thing. I'm actually going to probably go back and forth. Let's see, how did I have that? I want to make sure that I'm following my pattern here. Okay, so this is how I want it. So actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this end here. And we're going to insert it right here so I have an idea of where I'm going from. There we go. And when you're sewing the ends together, let's say you don't have an end that you can grab real quick. It's okay if you use a different yarn, and it doesn't matter what color yarn you use, right? As long as when you're measuring it, because this is all you need. So you want to measure it from here to say here. So you just want it the length that you want, the length that you need right there, and just a little bit longer than what you actually need. I'm actually going to probably have to use 2 strands here because I don't think this one's going to be long enough. And that's something to consider too, is the crochet thread that you have, is it going to be long enough for what you need? Sometimes you have to figure things out on the fly. And remember, we're working in the back of those back loops so that your work doesn't show on the other side. Okay, let's get that together. And I don't think I'm going to have enough, so I'm going to weave this one in before it becomes too short that I can't. And I'm just going to leave it like that. Normally I would go back through, but I'm just going to leave it like that. I can snip that one off. Okay, so let's take a look at this real quick. while I'm at it. So obviously I still need to sew these. I kind of want to sew these together just a little bit so that I have a little bit more texture. And then I can take it a little bit further and sew these two pieces together as well. Or I can leave that as an opportunity to put another V or another fan in between there with a different color so that I don't have pink on pink, which is what I'm more than likely going to do. The other thing I could do here as well, I can put another V stitch in here. So instead of going back in there and sewing those together, I can go back in, put a V in there. Whatever you want to do. I mean, there is no rules, right? I mean, there is, but there's just guidelines to help you not have quite such a hard time doing this. Okay, so before I go too far, I do want to remind you again, as you are building out your scrumbles, as you are building out your fabric, make sure that you have your steam iron nearby so that you can give a shot of steam to let it flatten out. And that way you can kind of see where your work is lying, right? So that you know which direction you need to take it. Because sometimes you flatten it out and then you're like, oh, that didn't look so good, right? So I would probably at this point give it a shot of steam so that I can kind of see, is this where I want it to be? Do I want to continue sewing this part in, or can I get away with putting another V in there or another shell in the V? Same thing with here. I'm actually thinking that I'm going to sew this side together, even though I've got pink on pink. It kind of looks, to some degree, it kind of looks intentional because of it. If you look at it, it kind of looks like a swirl right here with the pinks. And that actually could be to your benefit, right? Kind of a swirl, unintentional swirl. So that I would probably sew this part down. That will pull this side together tighter. And then I'll put a V in here on this side. Now, when you are doing your steam iron, make sure that you're not flattening your creative stitches. Make sure that you're, because you can use the steam iron to fluff up those to make them more intentional. Like I'm going to probably give this a shot of steam right here because it looks great, but I need it to stay in a certain shape so it doesn't look so awkward. Because right now it looks kind of I don't know if you keep noticing me playing with it because it's bothering me. It's like it kind of looks a little awkward, right? So I would give it a shot of steam so that it would actually stay where I want it to, because you're going to use your steam as a way to either manipulate your work or make sure that it flattens out in certain areas. But anytime you have a specialty stitch like your I want to call them blackberries because that's the era I was from. Your berry stitch right there, and as well as your berry stitch right here, that you want to make sure that those don't get flattened, as well as your specialty stitches like your puffs and your box stitches. You don't want them to flatten out. Now, the flow of the work, you're going to start placing the pieces as usual, right? You're going to work from the center out, like we've already talked about, and you're going to let the fabric guide you. Just from my short little example here, you see how I kind of changed my mind as I was working through this with you, because that's the process that you're going to go through. You might decide later down the road you don't like what you decided on, and then you switch it up. But so far, I'm actually liking this. I think I'm going to put this one right over here. And then build out from here as well. So, all right. So in your next video, or in my next video that I'm going to create for you, and you're going to watch it, right? I'm actually going to go over how we are going out to the edges, how we're doing those corners. Essentially, we're going to go over how to fit your fabric to the actual template itself. We're going to talk about colors and natural fit, how to pin your template, pin your work to your template, that kind of thing. So your homework assignment, if you are so daring to do your homework assignment, this is your only job. You're going to start scrumbling. No pressure, no masterpiece required. You're just going to start the process, okay? Get your board, get your template, put it in your lap, and just, you know, put a movie in and just play. Play with the scrumbles that you have, play with the fabric that you have, that you're creating, and just enjoy the process, because it is a creative process and it just is so much fun and so liberating that it allows you to be creative and do things that you normally wouldn't do with yarn. And that's the part that I absolutely love. So your crochet companion. Today we're turning those scrumbles into actual fabric and making it make sense. Make it make sense, right? I've heard that so much before. All right, at some point, I'm actually going to show you how to do the mattress stitch, but I wanted to talk about what we're doing first, okay? Well, not necessarily what we're doing. We already know what we're doing. But to start off with, you're going to actually put I always start with my large pieces, my large scrumbles, and then I put my little smaller scrumbles in. In fact, I coined the word scrumble stuffer. That's what I call them. So they're the little scrumbles that are going to fit in the little grooves when once you start putting them together in your actual fabric. So for those of you who did watch the last video, you know that I sewed my scrumbles together. I also took advantage of a V-stitch. I didn't do anything else because I was saving that for this video. We're going to continue on working with our scrumble and working on how we actually make those changes and adjustments to make it into a full fabric, okay? Now, we already talked about the template in episode 5, and I'm going to continue talking about that template because your template is really important if you want it to be a specific size. So we're looking at our template here, and as you can see, I've got a little ways to go on this template, but every time you work on your template, you make sure that you are working all the way to the edge. So I'm going to actually move these up a little bit, because I'm going to worry about this bottom part some other time. But I wanted to get at least 2 of these edges done so that I can show you how to put those 2 edges together, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to work all the way out to the edge and then to hit a little bit of a corner. And then I'm going to work on another edge on my own time. And I'm going to come back and show you how to put them to like 2 edges together, okay, using the mattress stitch. And don't worry, my later time is going to be probably in the next segment of this video. It's not going to be another video. It's going to be in this video. So you're going to be constantly comparing your template, and you're going to be adjusting as needed. Your piece should grow with your shape. So let's just go ahead and get to working on this. I'm actually going to put this. I just went ahead and decided I'm going to just use this edge and tack that one side down, and we're going to use the V stitch or that V opportunity on the other side of here to create that interest over there. Okay, let's just tack this down. Oops, let's go this way. Yeah, we're gonna go this way. Oh, why didn't you tell me I was off the camera? I was putting, like a good girl, I was putting my board in my lap. And, you know, that doesn't really work that well if you're actually on camera or trying to be on camera and trying to show somebody else how to do it, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and weave that in, snip that off. So we don't need that anymore. So that was a pretty simple fix, right? I don't think we're going to need those ends, but we'll wait till I'm done with working on this before I completely snip them off. Okay, so we want that to be on that edge, that to be on that edge, and that covering that corner. Okay, and that's the other thing I like about having the board is that you can move it around where you want to. So maybe I want it to be on that, especially once you tack your pieces down. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to conquer this corner right here, this little V right here. And I've already used the green. Let's look at this balance. We want to look at the balance of your work here. So I've got a lot of pink, not as much green, and not a whole lot of gold, right? What in the world am I going to do? I really don't want to put another pink there, but I've got a green here. Well, that wouldn't be too bad. So let's just go ahead and do the green. Why not? So this one, it's actually I'm going to need like a longer stitch and not as many stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start about right here. And I'm going to either put either a treble in there or a double treble. One of the two. I haven't decided. That's, again, where our fabric tells us what we need to put there, right? So I'm going to kind of play around with this and see what I actually need. So let's do a treble first. We're going to go in this corner right here and see what we come up with. Now, usually in a small space like that, you really don't need, looks like the treble is going to work. Okay, that's perfect. All right, in we go again. Oh, my apologies. My husband is actually home today, so I don't get away from all of the noises that he makes. I try to, what is the word I'm looking for? Isolate. I try to isolate him to the bedroom while I do these if he's home. But you know how men are. They just don't like to listen. And heaven forbid if you tell them what to do, right? Okay, that looks good. So we've got a nice little corner going on there. So that pulls those two motifs together, and I didn't sew them down. That actually works out really well. I like that. Okay, so let's look at our, whoops. Let's look at our work again here. All right, so what we need to do is we need to fill in this edge right here, right? And we need to do a corner. We need to fill in this edge over here all the way to the edge. And this is where kind of, you know how we did with the surround on the circle. And we did different stitches to create the valleys, the hills and the valleys. And that's kind of the same thing that we're going to do here. So I'm going to start from here and work across so that I can create the dimension here. You can use other stitches, but when I have such a small space like this, I really just wind up doing like doubles, trebles, singles, half doubles in that space right there so that it works out quite well. All right, now let's decide what color we want to actually use. I really don't want to use the pink because then it will blend into this pink right here. White, we're kind of on the fence with that one as well. And obviously I don't want to use gold and I don't want to use green. So we're going to take the one that is not going to be as dominant. So I don't see a lot of white throughout my piece, right? And I don't see, I see a lot of pink, but I don't see as much white. So I'm going to grab my white and put my white there. Yeah, it's going to kind of blend in with a little piece of that white, but I would rather it do that than, because if I put too much gold, that takes away from the box stitch and how pretty that is right there. So I'm going to start right about here. I'm going to start with that single crochet. let's go. Forgot my number one rule of thumb. I don't want it too big, wiggle it around. So I'm going to take my safety pin and I'm going to pin these to my board so that they are not moving. Because at this point, I kind of have an idea that I want them to be right where they are. And I'm going to pin them so that they don't move. Now, those of you who ever do Irish lace, this is actually something you could do on a lace board as well. Okay. One more over here. I mean, you can do more than that, but for right now, that's all I need is just to have these pieces stay where I want them for right now, those areas right there. Okay. Got them in place. All right, all right, all right. Okay, so now the next stitch is probably going to have to be a half double crochet. And this is the awkward, when you're working those edges, I find this is to be the most awkward of it. Okay, so let's look at that. Make sure that we're checking our template often. And the next one, I'm going to do a double crochet because it's going to, we want, as we go down into the valley, we want the stitches to be taller. And let's see here. I'm probably going to need to put another double crochet in here. Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper. So we're going to do a treble crochet and then I'm going to kind of adjust it according to how I find that it looks. Okay, it's looking good. All right. Now let's go into the next stitch. We're going to do another treble crochet right here. And it looks like I'm going to be doing a treble crochet all the way across until I get to about right here. And then I will drop it down to a double again. So, all right. Whoops. Let's go. Treble right there. And you might have to put a couple of stitches in the same stitch, just to kind of fill that gap. All right. Still need to do another treble, it looks like. Sometimes I wish I could do this live with y'all so that you can tell me, hey, dummy, you're out of the shot. Okay, so this one I'm actually going to go into this gap rather than the stitch itself. And you can do that. That's okay too. All right. What do we got going on here? Okay, let's take a look at that. Looks like we're coming up to that spot where I am now going to be doing a double. Now, because I'm going to be working into these stitches, I want to work in the back of those stitches. I don't like the way that looked. I need to find a spot that's right here. There we go. Okay, it's not as big of a gap right there. The next stitch, or should I be doing a half double? Probably need to be doing a half double. Yep, looks like I need a half double in that spot. That's why I said you gotta check your template quite a bit. Probably need one more half double and then switch it over to a single. Okay. Looking good so far. Still staying aligned with our template. All right. And we'll stick a slip stitch in behind here to finish it off. There we go. Snip that off. Okay, so I mean it's a little wonky, but that's the whole point of freeform crochet. You're not going to have a uniform look. You're not looking for perfection, but you want to go to that edge, and that's exactly what I did. We went to the edge of our template. Now what we're going to do is we're going to switch it around, and now we're going to go to the other side over here. Now this one I'm going to go a little bit, have a different approach. I'm actually going to do the V-stitch, and then I'm going to switch it over. Now here's the part that I wanted to mention, that let's say you're working something and you need to go multiple layers. So it's kind of hard to do, you know, go the other direction when you've got your board pinned to your, you got your work pinned to your board, right? So what you would do is you would turn it around and you would work from this way. Just like that. You kind of lift your work and work on the other side. So it is doable. It's just a little bit more trickery involved. So at some point I'm going to do another V-stitch here and then work on my rows all the way across, right? And then I wanted to show you how to do the corner here. So we've got a little bit of a corner left that we need to work, right? And we kind of take a page out of our granny squares. So we would actually put multiple stitches in here and then a chain of 1 to create the corner, right? Now this one's not going to need too much. We're just going to insert our hook right here. And what color are we going to use? I think I'm going to use gold. Let's use gold. All right, we're going to use gold and we're going to build that out. Okay, so you know how in the granny square world we put multiple stitches in that one stitch, and then we do like so we would do like maybe 2 double crochets, and then you do a chain of 1, and then you do another 2 double crochets in that same stitch, or you can go to the next stitch over. So you could do a chain of 2 or a chain of 1, depending on how you feel and how it looks sitting there, because sometimes you might not need to go out like that. So, okay, so that looks actually really good, just like that. So I did a single crochet, 2 double crochets, a chain of 1 right there, 2 double crochets, and then I'm going to finish it off by doing a single crochet. Actually, let's see, single crochet and then a slip stitch in the next stitch. And there you have it. You've got your first corner. Okay. So I'm going to keep continuing working on this until I'm satisfied with what I've got. And then I've already got my one piece that I'm going to pin this to. Here is my one square already. I don't know how well you guys, if you can see that or well. But that's my square that I have already. And then when I come back, I'm going to show you how to incorporate those 2 squares to each other using the mattress stitch. Now there's a couple things that I wanted to kind of work and talk about before I go off and do the finishing touches on mine. You want to make sure that you're blending your colors You don't want any harsh clumps of any one color, any one stitch. You just want to make your work look a little bit more balanced. So I like to look at it in threes. So if you have, well, I guess depends on your color palette. If you're using 3 colors, it's going to be in threes, right? And then if you're doing 4 colors, then it's 4 colors together. So you want to make sure that you're looking at it. Okay, do I have a balanced color combination here? Do I have a balanced texture? Do I have a balance of sizes and shapes? You just have to take a stand back and look at that before you decide to go too much further. Like right now, it looks unbalanced because I don't have this piece right here. I don't know if that's going to work there. Anyway, so you get my meaning, right? And the most important, let those transitions happen naturally. If you let them happen naturally, then you will have a more balanced piece. And then I just want to touch on this, and we talked about it just a little bit. You want to work up and down, flip your work. You're starting from the middle and working out, and then you're building from multiple angles. There is no right direction, only what works. And the freeform rule, as always, there are no mistakes, only whether you like it. Okay, I am back. Are you still with me? Okay, good. This next part, this is where we're going to start seeing everything come together. I want to talk about, before we go into the mattress stitch, I want to talk about gaps. We all know that there's going to be gaps. Some of those gaps are going to be intentional, and some of those are not going to be intentional. And it depends on how you want to address it. Now, I have a gap here. It was not intentional, but I don't really see the need to do anything with it because my little berry stitch kind of covers that up a little bit. Now, these over here, these gaps were intentional, right? So we don't want to do anything. Same thing with over here. My gaps right here, they're intentional. My gaps right here, they're intentional. Let me see if I had any over here that were not intentional. Well, this one isn't really intentional, but because of the way the stitches lie, I'm not going to worry about whether or not I'm going to fix that or not. Now, the one that I see here that is not intentional, and I think that I probably should fix, is this one right here. And at first glance, you think, oh, well, it looks like it's an intentional gap. Yeah, maybe so. But it is too big and I'm going to have complications with things popping out of there, especially if I'm creating a pillow with this and I put stuffing in there. That stuffing is going to bloop right out of that little spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this to the back side. I'm going to grab my scissors and my needle. Let me find the right one. I like the one that's pointy. There it is. You can tell it's my favorite one because it's the most tarnished. So we're going to grab our yarn. We're going to grab our needle. We're going to kind of cut a piece. So remember what I said. We're going to cut a piece that's the size of what we need and just a little extra. Not much, but just a little extra. I'm not being silly. We're going to take our needle and we're going to fill in that gap. We're going to start from this end right here. Oops. Snagged that. And we're just going to fill in that gap. You notice I'm kind of weaving my end in while I'm weaving my end in. See how that worked? And that's basically, you can fill your holes in with sewing them together. In this case, I'm sewing it together because it was a fairly easy gap to deal with. Some gaps you might want to throw a stitch or two in there. Depends on how big your gap is. I usually try to get most of my gaps while I'm crocheting them together, while I'm in the actual scrumble process. Okay, so now I'm just going to weave that in real quick. I know, this is the boring part, right? We're just weaving in our ends and snipping them off. There we go. And that end, that hole has been filled. So now you go to the other side and you're like, ooh, that looks so much better now. Think of gaps as not problems, but they're opportunities, right? So sometimes you can put that stitch in it, like I said, or you can just sew it together. Okay, so this is the part we were all waiting for, is the piece actually coming together itself, right? So we're going to show you how to do the mattress stitch so that we can start putting our puzzle piece together, right? We want this to be a little decorative pillow, so I'm going to do the mattress stitch to start seaming it together. Now you can do it just like I'm doing it, like side by side like this, or if you prefer, you can do it back ends to the back ends and kind of go that way. And before you actually start putting your pieces together, I highly recommend giving it that last shot of steam to get it to lay as flat as possible. You might have to manipulate the side a little bit. So this, like this side, this one's just a tiny bit smaller than this one. Not sure how I managed to do that, but it's just a tiny bit. And so giving it a shot of steam and manipulating it that way will work. Otherwise, you'll catch it when you do your mattress stitch. So, all right, let's get our yarn going here. And we're going to measure it out the way at the width that we want it, or the length that we want it, plus a little extra so that we have plenty to sew it together. And the mattress stitch is a little bit different in the whip stitch, because instead of going back and forth just like this, you're still going to be going back and forth, but we're intentionally going to grab, and let me get this a little bit closer here. We're going to grab our yarn and go up under, just like that. So that's the way you would normally do it if you're just putting two scrumbles together and you need that to do it like that. But you kind of want to grab a little more cushion when you are putting your sides together. So you're going to do up and under like that. So up, under, you're going to catch two stitches together, kind of like that. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to go to the other side, making sure to keep your tension loose to start with. So we're going to grab this, and I'm going to put my needle in through here, making sure to grab plenty of stitches along the way. Oh, but we don't want it to be shown, so let's go in this way. Well, no. Go like that. All right. And we're just going to do a little loose to start with, okay? Leave that out there. A little loose, loosey-goosey, just to start with. We go back to the other side. And then we're going to go back to the other side, grab our edges. There we go. Nice and loose just to begin with. We're going to keep going here. And making sure that, you know, you're kind of lining it up a little bit. You'll definitely know when you get to the end if it wasn't lined up correctly. So I just like to stop every now and again and pull this tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this end, and I'm going to grab this end, and I'm going to pull it tight. See how that worked? And now you can't even see that thread. We're going to keep going. Just nice and loose. Nice and loose. Kind of stay you kind of want when you're doing the stitch, you need to kind of be about equal on each side. At least that's what I have noticed on my end, that you just kind of need to do it that way. Make sure that I'm still in the frame. Oh, lost my thread. Aren't you glad that you know that somebody else has just as much difficulty with keeping their yarn on their needle nice and loose still? I usually go a couple of stitches, kind of gauge that I'm still staying within my parameters. You're going in on the edges of your work, grabbing the 2 stitch like that, going through one and coming up through the other. And then when I've gotten a certain amount of stitches in, then I'm going to pull those ends together just like that. And look at how that disappears. The stitch just disappears just like that. I think that this is like the neatest thing in the world. Okay, maybe that's a little exaggerating, but I do really like this stitch. I really do. Oh, let me make sure I'm gauging it so it's right across from the one that I just did. There we go. All right. Well, you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and finish that up off camera real quick. Okay, so I weaved the end on this side already in, and I'm going to come over here and weave this side in because I wanted to show you that you kind of want to use the end to really bring that corner together, just like that. And then I'm going to go to the back side and weave it the rest of the way in. Pulling it a little bit snug on the way through. And I like to go in multiple directions so that it doesn't come undone. Because that's the last thing you want to do, is spend all that time doing beautiful work just to have it unravel on you because you didn't take the time to weave your ends in properly. Okay, that's it. Now you've got your 2 ends together, and you can put it together like this and work on the other ends, matching them up and using that mattress stitch. Obviously, you want to keep one entrance point at some point open so you can stuff it with some stuffing, that kind of thing. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of finish up here by reiterating the troubleshooting steps. You've got that weird hole. You're going to fill it up however means that you can, whether it's to sew it together or putting an extra stitch in there. If it doesn't fit, just adjust the edges. Too bulky, balance it out. And then reiterate that you want to use that template that I showed you earlier, making sure that you are working all the way to the edge. That's probably what happened with the difference between the 2 of mine, is I might not have worked completely to the edge. I probably should have put some extra stitches in there, maybe some berries or something to the edge to kind of make it just a little bit bigger. But it wasn't that much of a difference that I really felt like I needed to adjust it. So, and then make sure you're checking your edges, fill the remaining gaps, and using that steam. I cannot reiterate that enough. Make sure that you are steaming your pieces as you go so that you have it laying flat. Well, the parts that need to lay flat, you've got it laying flat, which is the back side. You can use it to manipulate your fabric or your stitches so that they go out all the way, stretch them out just a little bit. I did finally fix my little weird thing that's going on here, so that it wasn't looking so frumpy from you could see the distinguished, the actual stitches. Okay. Today we're finishing our pillow. Talk about reinforcement tricks embellishments, closures, and where you can take Freeform from here. So to do a brief recap on what we have done so far, we started with our foundations. Then we built on those foundations and created surrounds and spirals. Then we worked on texture, creating specialty stitches and creating texture with all the different variety of different stitches. And then we touched on scrumbling, how to scrumble, and then building our fabric out. And now we're bringing it all together. Now, Freeform, it doesn't end where fabric is finished. So I want to talk about finishing possibilities. So some of the things that you can do, like if you decided that you want to make a bag, you can line your bag with some fabric, and then creating straps, straps and that kind of stuff. So, and what I do with straps, I reinforce them with bias tape. I create that strength. So on bags, what I do is I will put the bias tape on the edge, the top edge of your bag, and then I actually put the bias tape on the back side of the actual bag itself as well. I do have a tutorial on creating straps and strengthening your straps with bias tape. I would highly recommend popping in there and learning how to do that. I didn't know how to do it myself, and I had to learn. I had to teach myself how to do it. So you guys get the benefit of me teaching you what I've learned through hard knocks. All right, so continuing on, we also want to look at closures and buttons. So a lot of times your bags, they'll have buttons. You can even create your own button if you want to using the Freeform. Something simple like using a little piece of cardboard so that it reinforces the button, and then just crochet around the little cardboard piece. That's always an option. And you're going to use it to reinforce wearables or to create texture on a wearable. You can put it on, like, say, the top half of a t-shirt or maybe a Western shirt or something like that, where you want to just line the top of your shirt or put it on sleeves or like maybe on a back pocket of your jeans. That's kind of some of the things that you can do with that. And then one of the things that I really like about Freeform is that it gives us a chance to use those fun fabric looking kind of yarns or specialty yarns, like the feathery ones, the tinsely ones, and all those kind of funs, because it allows you to create such a fun, special texture or a visual appeal. I haven't had an opportunity to do that myself just yet, but I am so excited to start doing some of that myself. Basically, because after all this work, we're not letting our bag straps choose violence, right? All right, so are you still with me at this point? Are you following what I'm putting down here? So, all right, now we are going to get to the really fun part. And that's, where do you use the Freeform? I already touched on, how you can use use it on like shirts and stuff like that. But, you can do it on clothing, create bags, pillows, wall art, accents, wearables. I even seen somebody use slippers and create a funky design on a slipper to create a visual appeal. It was kind of fun. So Freeform doesn't have to take over an entire project, but it can be something simple, just a little embellishment here, a little bit embellishment there. Now, this is the part that everybody's probably waiting for, and this is where we are actually going to finish the actual pillow that we started in episode, was it episode 1 or episode 2? I can't remember. I believe it was episode 2. So this is what we started all these episodes ago. This is your pillow, and we're not done yet. So all right, so let me set this aside. So I actually folded it in half because we are going to need to have it in half. Now, the last episode, we created our first seam and put our 2 halves together. Now, we're going to create the inside of the pillow. So I'm not going to actually demonstrate the full sewing, the whole sewing thing. Went too far back here. But because this is a crochet tutorial, not a sewing tutorial. But what I did is the very template that I used to create my motifs and to create my fabric, I actually am using the same fabric to create the inside of my pillow. So what I did is I sewed around the edge here. I believe it was anywhere between 3/4 to an inch that edging that I did, and then I made sure that I left an opening so that I can turn it inside out, which is what I'm going to do now. We're going to turn it inside out, and then we're going to stuff it. Inside out, and then we're going to stuff it. And don't worry about, because obviously your thread is going to be on the inside of your pillow, so you don't need to worry about whether your thread matches. In fact, I didn't. And oh my goodness, I have not sewn in a really, really long time, and it is official. I'm probably going to have to get something to help me see that needle. I was dreading the day when somebody would tell me that I was old and that I couldn't see to thread my sewing needle, or, the needle that I put on my sewing machine. And it literally took me probably 15-20 minutes to sew, or to put my thread into my needle. And I had to get a headlamp, and I put my finger behind the needle so I could see where the hole was to put the thread, and it was an absolute nightmare. I probably should have borrowed my husband's glasses. It might have helped a little bit. Anyway, all right, so I've got it inside out, and I just kind of look. I mean, you could have probably snipped the corners diagonally so that your corners would be perfect. But you know what? I'm not looking for perfection when it comes to this pillow, because this is the inside of your pillow, the stuffing of your project, and it's the outside that's going to be your shiny star. Then we take our little opening. I'm going to grab my stuffing. Just stuff that stuffing in that little hole. You probably could make a bigger hole than what I did, but I'm not really filling the hole having to hand sew a really big hole. So if you're like me, you'll deal with the inconvenience of having it a little bit harder to stick your stuffing in, just so you don't have to hand sew the hole shut. That's such a big hole. All right, more stuffing goes in. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we want it to at least look like a pillow, right? That's what we want. And then once we get our pillow stuffed, we sew in our... So we would actually hand sew this little section right here, hand sew that together so that it creates that seam. Looks like I don't have quite enough stuffing in there just yet. Let's put some more in there. Let's put some more in there. All right, let me go ahead and finish stuffing my pillow, and I'm going to put my seam in there. I'm going to sew my seam in there, and then I'll be back with you here. Okay, I got my pillow stuffed. You got yours stuffed? So this is the edging that I did. It's nothing fancy. It's just a whip stitch. You can do the mattress stitch on this as well. That'll help. Either way, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is what's going inside. The next part is what makes it matter. Oh, and get this. So I'm going to show you guys the stuffing that I used. It's this polyfill. That's what I used. And of course, after I got it done stuffing, I found this polyfill stuffing tool. I did not even know that that was a thing. I am so old now that I know I'm not that old, but I feel old now because I'm like, when did they start putting a stuffing stick inside of the polyfill? So, all right. So we've already done one of our edges, right? And now we do. I'm going to do at least 2 more before I actually stick the pillow inside. So you just, obviously I folded this in half already. So this is the edge that I originally put together. And I'm going to take my yarn and we're going to work upside both of these edges. And if you remember from my last, the last episode that I did, how you measure how much yarn you need to go the length of what you are sewing together and just make it a little bit longer. So I'm going to go about that long. Well, why are my scissors being weird? It's probably the operator, aka me. And has anybody noticed as you get older that the hole of the needle seems to be getting smaller? Maybe that's just me. I don't. And one thing that I like about this is that if you wanted to, you could create this in a way, or seam this up in a way so that your fun little edge is hanging off the edge of the pillow. I probably won't do that today, but I think it would be fun. And you can also put an edging on your pillow as well. So if you wanted to just come in and create a fun embellishment on the edge of your pillow, I would say go for it. That's where that specialty yarn comes in. So if you remember from the mattress stitch that I did in the previous video, that's basically all we are doing. We are going to go to the edge here. Going to be working over that. Well, no, I'm going to leave myself an end and weave it in. And then you're going to just put it in this way. Just like that. And then you're going to go to the opposite side and do the exact same thing. So you want it to be even. And you don't have to do it tight just yet. But you're just going to do the mattress stitch all the way up both sides. Just like that. Do it loose to begin with, and then eventually you will tighten it up and watch them disappear. That's the fun part, is watching them disappear. All right, I won't bore you with this part. I'm going to finish this off camera and come back when I have mine done on this side, and then actually I'm going to do this on both sides, and then we'll come back and reconvene. Oh, Before I go, I forgot to show you the most important part, and that's because I just pulled it tight and I realized I hadn't shown you how to do that. So when you're doing it loose to begin with, just like this. And then once you have a few strands, I like to just grab both ends and pull it and watch how it disappeared. That's the fun part. Okay, so now we got our seams, both of our seams. Got this side seamed up. You can't even see the yarn. And this side is seamed up. You can't even see the yarn. So now we get to the fun part. We get to put our pillow inside of our case, basically. And it's not going to fit perfectly, and that's okay. It might be a little bit smaller. I'm not mad at it. You'll just adjust it as you get it in there. And now we have one more edge to seam up. So we're going to do the exact same thing with this. We're going to seam up that edge and finish our pillow out. Just like we did with all the other seams, all the other edges. We're going to take our corner, stab our corner, create a line, and then do our mattress stitch across. Loose it first, and then you tighten as you go. Tighten it down as you go. This really doesn't, once you get into a nice little rhythm, it really doesn't take that long. As you can see, trying to find a good spot to put it. There we go. And I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to tighten this. Watch that disappear. All right, I will catch you at the end here. Okay, look at that. You guys got your first freeform project done. Look at that. That is so super cute. And look, we got a few knobbies sticking out there. I think we got some knobbies over here sticking over the edge too. That just makes it fun. We got little knobbies. And if you want to, you can crochet along the edge and create even more fun and texture. That's completely up to you. It's whatever it is that makes you happy. Look at that. I love it. It is so much fun. And this is basically where all those little pieces finally found their purpose. After all these episodes, we now have a purpose for everything that we just did. All right, so freeform crochet never was about making perfect rows. It was about trusting your creativity, one surround, one texture, one little decision at a time. If you've made it through all 7 episodes, you've officially survived the yarn chaos. Until next time, keep those stitches just a little weird, and may your hooks never hide.